Okay, so we are live, and let me check that everything is okay. Okay, here we go. Hello, Margaret. Hello, Margaret. Yes, I can see the chat. You can see my screen, hopefully. Yes, let me see. Okay, chat, please let me know if everything is okay. You can hear me, everything is fine. This is important. The hell, my... Okay. So today's live stream, I'm gonna have three main goals. Okay, first of all, I want to chat with you. I want to talk to you. This is why the chat is right in front of me. I'm looking at your comments, and whenever there is something we can discuss, we're gonna discuss it. Okay, this is gonna be through all of the live stream. We're gonna have some conversation about the previous episode of Severance. It's gonna be hopefully awesome. The second part is we're gonna enrich our knowledge about this TV show, The Severance. I don't think it's possible for any human being to notice everything, every detail, every possible connection. So we're gonna watch today some of the creators, that some of them I know personally, some of them I never heard of, and hopefully the chat will advise me to some of the maybe creators that you know and you consider them good, that we'll check them too. And we're gonna see, maybe we missed something. We definitely missed something. We're gonna see different takes, we're gonna see different ideas, different theories, and that way our understanding of Severance is gonna become richer. And the third thing is, hopefully we're gonna help somebody. Okay, I'm not a big creator, obviously. I'm not like a huge crazy hundreds and thousands and millions of subscribers, not like that, but maybe if there are some creators that are really good but they didn't get enough attention yet, hopefully through my channel and through this video they will get some attention and it will help them grow. Of course, if they make good videos, obviously. Now we're gonna maybe watch some of the big names also, like there's New Rockstars, there is Think Story. I kind of prefer not to watch those videos, but I usually prefer not to watch them before I make my my review, because I don't want anybody else to influence my ideas. And yeah, that's it. But right now it's okay to watch everybody. But you know, like usually when I watch some of the big channels, like most of the times I see them like basically saying all of the basic stuff that we cover. Like sometimes we don't even cover them, because it's like, for us, for the crazies, it's basically like it's not even an explanation. So I'm gonna be with my phone, so if I'm looking down like this is not because I'm trying to avoid conversation, something like this. I'm looking down because I'm reading your comments, like they're in front of me here on the screen, but with the phone it's more convenient, it's better for my eyesight. Okay, that's it. So first of all, the first creator we're gonna watch today is gonna be real Enigmas and Theories. I know this guy personally, like I never met him in real life, but he was the first YouTuber that actually reached to me when I was just starting. Like some people were noticing my channel, and he right away like welcomed me and invited me to his live stream. So like I want to start with his channel because he's an awesome guy, and I'm pretty sure his video is gonna be good. So yeah, well, a lot of chat already. New Rockstars represent. I'm always supporting Smoke M. I'm one myself, although it's just a hobby for me. It's okay. For most YouTube creators, I think it's a hobby, you know, like in order to make a living here, you like need to make big numbers. Like what I'm doing right now is not enough. I'm just hoping that my safety net is going to be enough until I'm going to get bigger. Like my channel is growing, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for the pace. Hopefully, you know, fingers crossed. Either way, it's not going to become anything bigger than a hobby if you don't like take a risk. This is like a decision I had to make right now. I'm 37 years old. Later, I'm not going to be doing this already. Okay, Jeremy Ice and Fire has one on the reintegration that is honestly amazing. Okay, Real is awesome. Just currently, this is pretty good. See, the stream time is for the Americans. No, the stream time is actually not for Americans. My time zone is completely opposite from United States. It's 10 p.m. at my place. I'm going through the night because this is when my baby sleeps. So yeah, this is right now time to do some live stream. I don't know how long it will take, by the way, as long as we have something to see, and as long as I'm like I have some strength and I'm not falling asleep in front of you. Like maybe it's gonna be an interesting live stream when I'm sleeping, right, like this. I like real Enigmas. Yes, can run and drove. Cool to see. Hey girl. Yes. Okay, guys. Okay, so I don't ask for donations. Never do that. I feel cheap when I'm doing it. But like in case somebody really wants to ask me something, like the best way is obviously use the super whatever YouTube thingy that it's been done here, because like I'm reading your chat while I'm watching the video, so it's a bit difficult for me to read everything, and I'm trying to filter. I'm seeing like, yeah, hey, hello, thanks, hey, how are you? So I'm trying to filter and I'm looking for something that relates to me. But if I miss it, please write a couple of times. I'm not ignoring you. And if you want like really be sure, then you can use the donation, but once again it's definitely not necessary in this situation. So let's start already. Let's watch Reel's video, and if you will forgive me for that, let's watch it on speed 125. I don't want it to make it super fast. I usually watch videos on the speed 2x, but I want to watch because I want to be able to watch as many videos as possible today, because videos are long, so you know it's gonna take a while. So yeah, we have like first donation. Thank you, Christian. Unpronounceable. Actually, I pronounced it. So I've enjoyed your videos and theories. I want to support you. Thank you so much. Like if it comes from the heart, it's welcomed. But like I never want to sell my time or my answers. It feels, I don't know, it doesn't feel honest. Maybe somebody understands me, maybe somebody thinks I'm crazy, but it doesn't feel like that. But if somebody wants to donate, it's always welcome, and it's motivating and it's helpful. So yeah, let's watch.
Real Enigmas and Theories is back again with another video.
Okay.
Hey yo, this episode right here was, I think, the first time that we got a recap like this at the beginning of the episode. I don't know, I could be wrong, let me know. But the swing of this episode was very different from any episode that we saw in the series so far, and it fit perfectly with the first two episodes being two totally different perspectives of the innies and the outies. So it was great to me. I loved it. So we're going to get into the review, the breakdown. We're going to look at some symbolism and a whole lot more. But before that, go ahead and do all that dope YouTube stuff by tapping that screen a couple of times, by liking, sharing, getting ready to hop down in the comments. And also, correct. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not subscribed, hopefully this will be the video that'll make you do it. So without further ado, let's cook. So we start this episode off with Cobell in what looks like to be the middle of nowhere, sleeping in a little hoopty. Hey yo, whoever that truck driver was that passed her and beeped the horn like that, they need their ass whipped. She packed her bags and she got the hell up out of there. We then cut to a scene where Mark is obviously carrying out some sort of plan that him and Devin have been working out. It looks like she kept at him about his wife possibly being down on the severed floor, and they're working on a plan to get a message to his innie to ask her who is alive. And that's the title of this episode. He's timing himself to see how long he can vision an after image. But later on, Ragabi tells him how stupid that is, and that it wouldn't work anyway because the sensors make your pupils dilate, which we have seen many times when they go down on the severed floor. Now, I've talked about the pineal gland as in reference to where the chip is being placed at, and the multiple reference to the pineapples as well. Those are connected because they both get their name from the pine cone. And I've been getting some comments in my comment section about the way that I pronounce pineal gland, and they're saying that I should be calling it pineal gland. Well, actually, pineal gland has two pronunciations, and pineal gland is actually the first pronunciation. Pineal gland came later.
I like what's going on right now. It started with a recap and now we're getting some like insight, and this is not something I even closely knew.
Actually, it was named after the pine cone, so that's why it's called the pineal gland. So I'm not wrong in my pronunciation. There's actually two. Mark and Devin's idea to create an after image would also be connected to the pineal gland due to the light exposure being the most important factor related to the functioning of producing the melatonin secretion. So we cut to MDR and we see Mark printing out some missing posters of Miss Casey. I thought that Helly drew those posters, but it was actually Herb. But Helly did show her drawing skills before, and she actually critiqued Mark on his when he was redoing Petey's map. So he and Helly, or Helena, whoever she is right now, are going to go look for the Goat Man. And peep how Mark calls him the Goat Man. Mark asks Dylan to go down to the new break room, in which he kind of brushes Mark off because we know that he's hiding something that Milchick has proposed to him. And there's some sort of division that's being drawn between the MDR people and Dylan. Two things here. He's really wanting to know more about his Audi's family life, and he could be a little bit jealous that Mark has Helly and Miss Casey is his actual wife, and he could also be a little bit jealous about Mark being the brother-in-law of Rick and Hale. Now, I know I've theorized that Dylan may have been working with Petey, so I think that Dylan will snap out of it at some point and start talking to the rest of the crew about what he and Petey have been doing. I think Dylan is just going through his traitor arc right now. He'll be back on board with us. So Mark assigns Irv to go to O&D and show the missing poster around. And he hasn't been back there since Bert's departure. Helly/Helena says, "We got you." And you can see Dylan's reaction. He's more like,
"Nah, you got him. I got me. I'm looking out for me. Shit."
So then we get to a scene where Helly and Mark have this awkward huddle where you can tell Helly wants a kiss, but then this happens. And she walks away looking like,
"This motherfucker."
Milchick strolling into work late with the Fonz's jacket on, and he notices that Mark left those balloons in the hallway. Milchick gave Mark 12 blue balloons. Then he also gave Helly a dozen white roses. There were 12 chairs in the conference room, and in the intro sequence, there were 22 baby boys around the bed with Mark, right? And then there were the Eni mark and the Audi mark that was standing on his chest, and he grabs them. So that makes 23 and 24 people right there, which is also divided by 12.
I want to see where he's going with that. Like, I see the connection with the numbers, but what is the...
All right. I remember several other references to 12, which is the number of completion, and I expect to see a lot more of that tie into a major plot point. Anyway, Milchick isn't too happy about the balloons, but it seems like management life has been keeping him out the hallways because them shits have been sitting out there since Mark's first day back. The fuck you think he was gonna take them upstairs with him? Nah, bro, get them little lame ass balloons the fuck up out of here. We thinking about deeper shit now. Them little perks and all that shit don't work no more. No balloons. This man knows that his Audi's wife is down there. Ain't no balloons and shit like that gonna work. It's up from here on out. So Irv must have dipped to the bathroom or something and came back, and he tells Dylan that he's recreated the painting and he wants Dylan to go with him and look for it. And Dylan brushes him off too, right before Miss Wong shows up to come get Dylan. Why Irv hasn't told Mark and Helly yet, or if he has, I don't know. But Irv slides on over to Miss Wong to stretch out the use of his new hall pass and lets her know, like, look, I got a hall pass. I'm the fuck up out of here. I'll be back when I be back. So Miss Wong tells Dylan to follow her. And then we see Milchick finally making it to his office, and I wonder why he's late. But he's greeted by Natalie and the board. Now, when he sees her, he seems afraid, and Natalie actually kind of seemed a little afraid or a little sketchy too. And something I noticed is that Natalie refers to the board as an it, as if it's one thing and not a group. And just something about the way she said it just made the board feel not human or something, you know? And it seems that the board has commissioned a gift for Milchick, a series of paintings of Kier in the likeness of Milchick, or Kier as a so-called black man with blue eyes. Man, they done put my boy Milchick on an Uncle Ben's rice box. What the fuck? How the hell y'all gonna have Kier looking like he retired from the Negro Leagues? Who thought this shit was okay? Ben Stiller tried to hit us with a little bit of Tropic Thunder real quick. Somebody called a union on these folks.
I actually seen the interview with the actor who plays Mr. Milchick, and he said like this scene they took like months to discuss it. Like when Ben Stiller and the screenwriter, I forget his name, Dan I think, approached the actor with the idea. They were like really careful, and they were like, "Are you okay with it? Are you comfortable with it? How are we making it as as sane as possible, even though it's a completely insane scene?" So yeah, by the way, Real is funny as hell. I don't know, it kind of feels like I'm watching the episode with one of my friends, the one that makes me crack up a little, always like makes me laugh. So yeah, cool
Milchick was not happy about this. He put that shit way up there where couldn't nobody even reach it at the end of the episode. Bro thought it was a painting of his granddad or something. They got Kier standing on the mountain looking like Uncle Remus and shit. Look at this picture right here. The little boy in the bed like, y'all see this bullshit? And then old girl said that they gave her one too. And I'm like, well, what the fuck did that look like? They must have gave her this. But the way they was acting is if they was afraid to say that this shit was trash. It was like they didn't even want to say nothing. It was like they was trying to watch their words. They was just talking with each other's eyes and shit. But anyway, we get to see Cobell still crying and driving before she turned around to go back. It's like she looked down at that breathing tool and it reminded her of some sort of mission she had to complete. Then we get a shot of Mark and Helly looking for the goat man. And they find the room, but this time no goats, no goat man. But they got like a white model farm there, sitting there on the floor. And
Never
a small
go full
door to a
milkshake.
shitty hallway that leads to.
Mammalians nurturable.
This woman leads Mark and Helly to her desk where they sit down and talk for a minute. They even got a little vending machine over there.
I
right?
love the vending
so she
machine
sits there
there.
and lies
It's
about
so
Miss
funny.
Casey. And when Mark refuses to leave without any real answers, she rings the bell to call what looks like the rest of her whole department.
Gotta
comes
have
up.
more
I
cowbell.
mean, Lumen out here just severing any goddamn body. Boy, this motherfucker right here look like he about to ask for a cigarette. Bro right here look like they just pulled his ass through a keyhole. And look at bro right here. He look like he just made it out the Jumanji game and shit. This dude.
One of my subscribers actually came up with a very good theory. Like we've talked about, people recycled here in Lumen. Lumen recycles. They're putting it everywhere. In the Kier Chronicle, there was an article about recycling and how it's important. And it kind of works that they're recycling people, creating new people, like in the image of Kier. And those guys can maybe really be homeless guys that just has been given an opportunity to become Kier workers. They have been recycled as the lowest class of society. So it's a good idea, I think.
Dude over here looking like Ripper from The Last Action Hero. We even got Narnia characters
Love
up
that
this
movie.
motherfucker.
If one of your goats went missing, wouldn't you go looking for it?
He's got a
Yeah,
point.
he's right. He's got a point.
Yeah,
He's
if it
right.
was a goat, we go find him.
Now, obviously, multiple departments have been told that MDR has pouches with larvae that come out and eventually replace the worker. And the mammalians have been told this shit too. I remember when Bert was telling Irv about that whole thing. And so since they've been fed this story, they said before letting them leave, they had them surrounded in a circle and they said, you can't leave pretty much without showing us your bellies. We need to see that. So they showed them. So then we get to see that they revamped the entire security room. And I'm pretty sure that they did that to prevent anything like the MDR uprising from ever happening again. They got rid of that whole control booth, but all that shit's gone. And they've turned it into the family meeting spot that was promised to Dylan by Milchick. And it's crazy as hell they brought his wife Gwendolyn there. And right off the bat, I noticed how she kept calling Milchick by his first name, Seth. Now, we didn't see Milchick go inside the house when he fired or rehired Dylan, but he does tell Dylan that his wife wanted him to know her name.
He was in the house in season 1 when he, made the Eni Dylan to wake up because he stole this card or whatever. So maybe this is how he knew. Even though, no, I'm wrong here. She's working at night. She is like a medical worker of some sort.
So when did she tell Milchick this? We did see
Maybe before she arrived to this place, like she was escorted by somebody. Probably Milchick welcomed her. And then he told Miss Huang to take it from there, because she would probably be very surprised to be greeted by a 16-year-old kid.
Milchick go in the home when he woke up Dylan that first time. But now we know that his wife works at night, and that's why she wasn't able to watch the boy, and Milchick had him counting to 1,000. Could Gwendolyn be the reason that Milchick was late to work? I don't know. And does he talk to her when Dylan doesn't know? Something else I noticed is that when she told Dylan's Innie that I love you, but she didn't even tell her husband on the Audi that she loved him. That bugged me out. She didn't even tell him about the meeting that she had with his Innie. She didn't tell him anything about it. When he mentioned it, she tried to act like she didn't even know what he was talking about. And then she just gave him some half-assed answer.
No, I don't think that's true. I don't think it's correct. She told him yeah, everything went fine. Like, she didn't want to elaborate because she felt weird about it, feeling emotions that she probably didn't feel for her husband for a while. But I don't think she kept the whole meeting, the effect of the meeting, as a secret. I didn't get that feeling from watching the episode.
That's a red flag. And speaking of red flags, somebody please tell me why Rickon is out here flirting with the ops. What the fuck is this? Now, we know that most of the newspaper, if not all of it, that Milchick shows to Mark talking about them being famous was a lie. However, Natalie seems to be trying to recruit Rickon to actually write a book. And I remember in that article, or one of the articles talked about Rickon had written a book for Kier. So it looks like they're trying to make that a reality, possibly to reinforce the narrative. And Rickon is
I was just telling this story today to my Russian subscribers. If you know, I have like a second channel in Russian, like something I started a while ago. My English channel is basically 4 months old, and I'm doing YouTube in Russian for almost 5 years. So I was doing this on video. Like there was this Russian website called VK. Okay, it was a competitor of Facebook, and when it was created, it was like 5 times better than Facebook. It was like amazing. It was completely free. The community section was way better than Facebook. But then at some point, you know, the government decided that they want the website because, you know, the government wants everything usually. So they basically pushed the guy who invented the website outside of the country. They took the website to themselves. And guess what? Right now, the website is like 99% crap. So whatever like Lumen is going to do with Ricon's book, it's gonna be crap, even though like the book is definitely not like the best book ever. And by the way, you can read like a part of it. I read it today. There's gonna be a video about it tomorrow, and it was actually way better than I was expecting. I mean, it's still bad, obviously, but if you can enjoy it as somebody who watches Severance and who enjoys Severance dry humor, the book it's freaking awesome. You definitely should check it out. It's completely free on Apple Books. Give it a shot. It's 39 pages. There is an audio version for like an hour. Absolute blast.
Is all for that shit. The smartest thing he ever did was make up Miss Kobelvik. I'm gonna give him that. Devin is not impressed with this shit, and she heads over to Mark's place so that they can work on that plan to message the Any. But before she leaves, she drops some egg symbolism by calling her brother a good egg. The egg symbolism has been showing up everywhere in Hollywood, movies, and TV shows for the last 5 years. And I've done some videos about this. You can go check a couple of those out. But briefly put, this symbolism is referring to the Vesica Pisces and fertility. And you're gonna wanna wait until the Ragabi part at the end of this video, because I dropped a little bit of symbolism there, and I walk you through the whole ritual in ritual form, not as you see it on the show, but as the hidden meaning of the gestures, the motions, and the symbolism. But as I said, it pretty much refers to the Vesica Pisces and fertility. And we'll go over some of that a little bit later. I even spotted a Vesica Pisces in one of the shots.
Thank you, Christian.
It was pretty dope. So Devin goes over the plan to create the after image with Mark, and then she just dips off. She talks about Mark left her there with the bill at Pips, but it was her that texted him and offered to take him to some shitty diner food. So we get a shot of Milchick's office, nice and clean. All his stuff is unpacked away, which indicates that some time had really passed. Enough time for Devin and Mark to start planning. Enough time for the MDR people to start planning to find Miss Casey. I mean, Irv said that he drawn one of those faces every day that he couldn't see Bert.
Miss Moonlight, I know exactly what you mean. I cannot drive either right now.
I didn't catch exactly how many of them it was, but it was more than 10. Not only that, but now we know that the search for the hallway is pretty much over because Felicia knows the location. So we don't need Dylan to go with Irv. Irv can go find it with Felicia. Now, back on the outside, we see Mark pulling up to some kind of barn building, and he's in the car practicing how long the after image.
Is there some kind of a delay? Because like I see that the visuals are not in sync with the audio. Like we are seeing something else. Like he's talking about one scene and we're seeing something else.
Can stay in his mind's eye. We see him put the cover over his head and shine the light. This symbolic light under the veil represents a spiritual enlightenment. Mark is literally trying to ask his inner self a question or ask his inner self to enlighten him on who is alive. We'll get a little bit more into the ritual later when we get to the Ragabi part. Miss Cobell must have been speeding her ass off because she makes it back to Lumen and was posted up outside waiting for Helena to get out for the evening. I think that is what also indicates that we don't know what day we're actually watching here, because all of this didn't happen in the same day. It's definitely not the same day. So they stand outside for a second by Miss Cobell's car, and they had a little short battle of wits and words before Helena arranges a meeting with the board. And she refers to the board as them, very different from earlier when Natalie recalls the board and it. Now, as they walk towards the building, Cobell senses something, and she turns around and bounces like she left some shit on the stove or something. They were about to retire her ass for real, and she knew it. Cobell is a threat to Lumen somehow. Now, somehow, Ragabi finds...
I love the theory that Cobell is a child, like illegitimate, I hate this fucking word, illegitimate child of one of the Egans. And this is what she's holding on top of their head, like if she's gonna go to, to maybe to newspaper or something like this. But, since we have seen what happens with Lexington letter, probably going against Lumen is not a very smart idea, but she definitely has something over their heads.
Mark and stops him from potentially damaging his eyes. And she tells him that the last time she saw Gemma, she was alive. So she pretty much confirms it for Mark. And Mark, he's all in, ready to get reintegrated. I do have to say that I was right about Regabi having someone on the inside. And it's obvious that she had not met with Mark ever since she took out Rain. She also knew that Mark's plan to do the after image thing came from his computer. She knew about the OTC incident, and I think her inside man is either someone who we haven't seen yet, or it's Milchick. Milchick could be playing the long game while working his way up, and I think those paintings were a way of reminding him that he was not an Egan. Anyway, Mark agrees to travel down a true path of enlightenment by becoming one with his inner self, reintegration. Regabi is the witch doctor who performs this ritual, starting off by laying out a circle of salt. And while turning on her machines, that symbolizes lighting the candle. Now, all of this is taking place in Mark's basement, which represents the severed floor. This is the same place where Petey was having his reintegration episodes, and also where Miss Cobell gets the candle out of the basement and she puts it on the severed floor, which is a mirror of each other. The severed floor is a basement, right? Then Regabi takes her magic wand and she places it above Mark's head. She casts a spell on him by asking him questions that ended up making him remember the memories of his inner self. And those very memories were a similar spell that was being cast on the Any during the intake ritual, which is also a series of questions. Now, it happened sooner than I thought it would, but I definitely knew that the OG intro and the new intro sequences foreshadowed Mark's reintegration. And this episode pretty much broke that down perfectly. That reintegration scene was totally fire. The music coming in at the end, everything was great. I don't think the timeline of what we saw was actually in the correct chronological order, but we will see. I don't know, I could be wrong. And also, be on the lookout for my deeper esoteric breakdown sometime before episode 4 comes. And be sure to tune in for my live streams throughout the week. I do one Saturday for sure, and I do several throughout the week. It depends on how much time I have. So I gotta say that season 3 is definitely off to a great pace. I can't wait to see episode 4. And thank you if you made it this far in the video. And if you like the video, tap that screen a few times by doing all that good YouTube stuff, by liking, sharing, jumping down in the comments. And if you're not subbed, hopefully this will be the video to make you do it.
And I'm subscribed for a while already.
Something to think about while we wait on the next episode. That's all for my video today. Okay. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Okay, cool. So first of all, let's do a poll here. I want to ask the chat, while you're writing to me, who we're gonna see next. By the way, great video reel. If you're still in the channel, still watching right now, great video. As I said in the middle of this video, like, it feels like you're watching the episode with one of your friends. You make it funny, you make it entertaining. You're not just recapping, you're giving insights, you're giving information. Just great video. Hopefully there is somebody in the chat who just discovers you, and hopefully they will go find your channel. Like, you can type in your YouTube search bar Real Enigmas and Theories and go there and subscribe. Now, where is my live stream? Where's my live stream? There's my live stream. Okay, I want to start a poll here. How do I start a poll? Here we go. Start a poll. So what do you think? Is it Helena or Heli are on the severed floor? Helena, Heli R. Start poll. Okay, going back to my premium YouTube because I don't want to spend so much time on ads. And yeah, so who are we watching? Come on, chat, give me some ideas, some of the creators. Who's gonna be next? Who's gonna be next? Let's see, just subscribe. Jeremy Ice and Fire, last video. Okay, I know Jeremy, not like by we never spoke, we never met or something, but I know his videos since he was also doing From content, obviously. So let's see his last breakdown. Okay, Okay, probably this one. Let's watch this one. Okay, let's do the 125.
Hey, everybody.
The four of you together again. I'm tightening the leash.
What was that? Wait a second. I've covered this small teaser, but I've covered it only on the vertical form. I haven't seen the horizontal video.
I'm tightening the leash.
Wow, I don't remember this shot. That's Helly. The ceiling looks like the ceiling Mark has seen in the end of episode 3. She's reading something.
Wow. Lovely.
You okay?
That's a different.
What's funny?
What are you gonna do?
The
Gotta get us
quality of
outta
the
here.
video is.
What is up,
because of
everybody?
me?
Jeremy
Ah.
Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. Episode 3 of Severance is just around the corner now, entitled Who is Alive? And after the first 2 episodes dealt solely with the aftermath of the Macrodad uprising, both in episode 1 seeing how our innies responded to the mini-rebellion, and then of course in episode 2 with us following the reaction of the outies and how they ultimately decided to come back to work, or should we say, how they ultimately got rehired. And now, with episode 3 on the horizon, we can most likely look forward to the innies continuing work at Lumen, as the episode 3 synopsis states, Mark, Helly, Irving, and Dylan search for answers. With some of those answers most likely being them trying to figure out a little bit more about what they are really working on at MDR. And of course, trying to find out a little bit more information about what really happened to Miss Casey, and if they can get her out, and if she is indeed one and the same with Mark's wife, Gemma. In the Season 1 finale, Mark's innie discovered the startling revelation that his outie's wife isn't quite dead, but is in fact working at Lumen Industries on the severed floor, going by the name Miss Casey, the wellness supervisor for the severed employees, which leaves Mark and company trying to find some kind of way to get any kind of answers on what really happened, which of course is going to be a very tall task to say the least. But one thing I'm really looking forward to seeing in episode 3 is the dynamic when they do return to work. How exactly are the innies going to be handling everything going forward now that they know so much more about not only themselves, but the outside world? In cases like this, ignorance is usually bliss. After all, you don't miss what you don't know. But after glimpsing the outside world and seeing everything that there is to offer out there, how exactly are the innies ever going to focus on only work ever again? And taking a look at the new trailer that Severance just dropped, it looks like we have some all-new footage of some interesting scenes that we will most likely be seeing in episode 3 and beyond, starting with this one of Mr. Milchick greeting the co-workers, stating, "The four of you are back together again," followed by a very interesting scene of someone seemingly running down that mysterious black hallway. The same mysterious hallway that Miss Cobell sent Miss Casey down towards the end of Season 1. And of
I don't think it's the same hallway. I think it looks similar, but it's not the same. This one was way more narrow. The one that Miss Casey was sent to. This looks wider.
course, the same hallway that Irving's Audi has been painting nonstop. And upon closer
Or maybe
inspection,
I'm
it looks
wrong.
like
No.
this could indeed potentially be Miss Casey herself running down this hallway, although it is hard to tell for sure.
Also don't think so. Once again, I could be wrong here, but sorry for this language. I don't know how to describe it correctly, but the running girl looks way thicker than Miss Casey. Miss Casey looks like she weighs about 30 kilograms, and this girl has some muscle on her.
But next, we also have another shot of Mr. Milchick taking his tie off while walking down the Lumen hallways, as he states that he is going to be tightening the leash, which could
we
potentially
have
be
a new
referring to
motivator,
him
Miss
starting to
Moonlight.
keep a
Thank you
closer
so
eye
much.
on
Thank you.
MDR. When the innies first returned to work, we started to notice a little bit of a change within Milchick, albeit hard to tell how genuine it really was, but he seemed to be wanting to make life a little bit better here for the innies, in terms of all of the reforms that Lumen has seemingly made in their honor. But upon closer inspection, you start to realize that a lot of these reforms that Lumen has made
Okay, I'm gonna be completely super noob right now, like the super snoob, but I need somebody to explain it to me like I'm a stupid kid. I'm seeing this on live streams. I've seen a lot of this on Reels live stream. I can see that Kiriskirt gifted 5 Geekademy memberships. Oh, hopefully they're not memberships. Hopefully they're memberships. What does it mean? It means like Kiriskirt basically bought 5 memberships and gave it to 5 different people, or what? Can somebody explain to me how it works? Because as you can see, I'm a bit of a noob in all live stream considering.
made have simply been tailor-made to manipulate the four into thinking they won some kind of victory, even going so far as to fake a parade in their honor, while stating that they had become the face of Severance reform. But it looks like all of that could potentially be changing very fast, With the episode 3 synopsis stating that Mark and his team are going to be looking for answers, maybe potentially they come across something that Milchick doesn't want them to see. Maybe they come a little too close to finding answers about Gemma or about something.
Do you think that maybe Mr. Milchick is actually a mole? Like he's working with Rigabi or maybe with the organization that, that Petey was talking about in season 1, like they that basically fight against Lumen? Do you think it's a possibility? We kind of see him, I think he's on a crossroads right now. Even if he isn't, it feels like he's on a crossroads and maybe he's gonna like switch his path and stop being, that Lumen crazy.
Something else at Lumen, and Milchick has to tighten the leash in order to keep them from finding out anything more.
Thank you.
But next, another new scene that caught my eye in the trailer was the scene of Mark waking up on the same table that Helly woke up on in episode 1. Only this time it looked a little bit different.
So yeah, he purchased 5 membership for membership. What the hell is going on with me? I'm cursing so much on my YouTube videos that I cannot even pronounce membership. I have to say membership. Okay, I will have to work hard and make this a membership for you, not a membership. Because then you're going to be disappointed with me if it's going to be a membership. Anyway, Small Burn Yod, thank you so much for the donation. And Kiwi Skirt, thank you so much for like crazy generosity. Thank you so much. Let's watch the video.
This time we see what appears to be Mark waking up in both his innie and his outie personas. As we see one version of Mark waking up in the suit that he wears to work every day, but then we also see him waking up in that same red shirt that he's always wearing in the intros, indicating 2 different aspects of Mark waking up on the same MDR table. But what exactly does that indicate? And could it even potentially be a sign of Mark reintegrating? After all, we did see Petey have very similar visions in Season 1 during his reintegration process as well. And a certain visual from the intro sequence in Season 2 has me wondering if it is indeed a foreshadowing for Mark reintegrating at some point. As towards the end of the intro, we see this visual here of what appears to be one version of Mark clawing his way to the surface.
This is a preview. I'm trying to understand what is going on. It took me 5 minutes to understand that we're watching not a review of the episode. Where is the review of the episode? That's a preview and predictions. Okay, what do we have here? This is the one. Will Mark's reintegration. What episode 3 explain? I hope it's at least entertaining for you to see me fumble and stumble like a moron. Okay, let's watch this video. Okay, like 5 minutes in and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why are we like trying to think what's gonna happen in episode 3? Oh.
Tell me your first memory.
Hey there, you on the table. Who are you?
That's awesome, Kiwi Skirt. Thank you so much.
What is up, everybody? Jeremy Eisenfire here, and welcome to the channel. Episode 3 of Severance is here, entitled Who is Alive, and things are really starting to pick up now. As not only are our innies back at work and hot on the trail to find Miss Casey, but our outies are starting to have some major developments as well, including the revelation of Mark finding out that his wife is indeed still alive, and of course the start of his reintegration. The episode starts off with Mark rallying the troops and coming up with a plan to search for Miss Casey, printing out missing persons posters and handing them out to Irving and Dylan, while sending each of them to a different part of the severed floor, while he and Helly go in search of the Go people that they found in Season 1. But it seems that Dylan has a plan of his own, as he is reluctant to go search for Miss Casey, as we find out later that he is preparing to have his very first visitation with his outie's wife. And even Irving himself has his own plan in mind, to go in search of the mysterious hallway that his outie has been painting non-stop. One thing we saw in episode 2 of Irving's outie was him making a very mysterious phone call at a phone booth, stating that his innie did get the message. And it seems like this might be what he was referring to, hoping that his innie would indeed learn about the hallway and go in search of it, of which he asks Dylan to accompany him. But of course, with Dylan having his own plan in mind, he declines this plan as well. What exactly was Irving's outie planning? There's still so much we don't know about him and what he is really up to. So if nothing else, I hope we learn a little bit more about Irving's outie over the next few episodes and what he is really planning. But next we see Mr. Milchick arriving on the severed floor, as he is greeted by the board in his office, as they have a very...
By the way, I would love to hear your opinion on it. Do you think that the reason why Irving was drawing this image, the whole image, so obsessively was not because he was seeing it in his dream or something like this? It's because he wanted to his conscience to actually flow to his innie subconscious. Like he knew that there is some kind of a connection between Ini and Auri, even though it's more of a subconscious connection, and he tried to draw it and look at it as much as possible so his Ini will have a sense of it. Because kind of seems like, Irving is a part of this organization that works against Lumen, maybe even Auri Bert too, and maybe this is how Irving knew, that he was switched on. Okay.
Very peculiar gift for him so he can see himself reflected in Kier's history. And with Milchick, it's always incredibly hard to read exactly what he is feeling. On the surface, he appeared to be grateful for the gift that he was receiving, but it's always incredibly hard to tell what he is really thinking deep down. But part of me did almost detect a tiny bit of chemistry between him and Natalie as well, so it'll be interesting to see if that develops into anything further.
Also, I felt that a little bit. I don't know if it's going to be developed somehow, but it felt like she knows what he's feeling right now. It felt like she really wants to tell him, like, dude, you need to power through if you want to grow up in this corporation. They're freaking stupid, and this is what you're supposed to like swallow sometimes. And she's obviously also and she's obviously also a person of color, so she probably didn't enjoy that the blackface images also in this situation. What I also think here is that, by the way, another question to the chat, like we know that something in the whole Aegon lore is not really working. Like we're seeing Kir Aegon working in the ether factory, like he's a simple guy, and then when he was a kid he was surrounded by a lot of rich, not a lot of rich, but a lot of servants, a lot of medical medical people. Oh my God, sometimes my English is failing me. So he was not obviously in a poor family. He was not growing in a poor family. And we know that the whole Kir Aegon Corporation started in 1865. Do you think that maybe this whole Lumen industry was built on slavery, on slave trades and everything else, surrounds this topic? I think it's kind of especially after what we have seen, the scene with Milchick and the drawings, it kind of feels that maybe there is something there.
But next, we see Mark and Helly continuing their search for the Goat People and Miss Casey, as they share an incredibly awkward moment in the hallway together. At the end of Season 1, of course, we saw Helly and Mark share a kiss, which definitely seemed like it was the beginning of something greater. But seeing as they are both so young and so infantile and don't really know a whole lot about the intricacies of an intimate relationship, they are both incredibly inexperienced in navigating such feelings, Mark especially. But eventually, they do stumble upon the same goat room that they found in Season 1, only to end up finding...
Sorry, I have to put on pause. Jeremy Ice and Fire also here. Next video, do you know if Margot Robbie doing also reviews of Severance? Because I would love her on my chat too. Anyway, I'm kidding, obviously. Very happy to see you here, Jeremy. And you're doing amazing videos. And hopefully your channel will keep growing as it is and even faster.
A smaller shaft leading to a much larger goat room where all of the goat people stay, where they go on to meet the leader of the goat people, played by Gwendolyn Christie. And if nothing else, I thought it was incredibly interesting how the first thing out of her mouth was asking Mark and Helly if they were there to kill her, which reminded me of all of the dark tales that the interdepartments share about one another. It seems like each department on the severed floor has a certain degree of fear for all of the other departments in general. We first saw an example of this in Season 1 when Dylan was pretty afraid of optics and design and afraid of Christopher Walken's character Bert in particular. And then of course we heard a similar story that Bert told Irving in Season 1 as well, about how everyone at Optics and Design thought MDR was walking around with actual pouches, like kangaroos. A story that seems to be shared by the Goat People as well, as one of the last things they ask Mark and Helly is to show them their belly buttons to see if they do indeed have pouches. And between the pouches and the Goat Lady asking if they are there to kill them, I'm starting to wonder if Lumen didn't specifically start all of these rumors on purpose, to keep the departments in fear of one another in hopes that they would never band together and rebel against the company. And the
I think it's a little bit like an allegory on, the corporate world. Like every time there was like a big corporation, like their biggest fear is workers unionizing, like to creating a union, so divide and conquer. Then this is exactly what they're doing. Like every department has to be afraid like crazy. And fear helps a lot when you want to control somebody. As soon as people are afraid, they're willing to do a lot of things that they are usually not willing to do. So fear helps a lot here in this situation. And once again, it's so weird and funny in this TV show, but it also kind of makes you think this is exactly what happens a lot in in real-time scenarios, just without the pouch on people's stomachs.
Go people were incredibly hostile towards Mark and Helly at the beginning when they first arrived, as Mark and Helly are trying to inquire if any of them have ever seen Miss Casey. And the Go people themselves were incredibly interesting to say the least. They seemed almost feral in a sense, like they had perhaps taken on some of the characteristics of the animals they are in charge of. Animals whose purpose we still know nothing about. Just what exactly are the goats for at the end of the day? And at first, the Goat people stated that they had no knowledge of ever seeing Miss Casey, but it seems like Mark knew that they were lying, or weren't being 100% truthful, as he started to appeal to their better nature, stating that if something like this could happen to Miss Casey, then who's going to come to the rescue when it starts happening to us? A clever attempt, if nothing else, to rally the innies together, a plan that does end up bearing fruit, as the Goat Lady does indeed admit that she has seen Miss Casey before, and she has even performed wellness sessions here at the Goat Farm. And I loved how Gwendolyn Christie's character used a cowbell of all things to rally the troops when her and Mark first started talking. Part of me was half expecting to see Christopher Walken come out one of the doors saying he needs more cowbell.
Finally, somebody else making a joke from this legendary SNL skit. I was thinking maybe, since I'm not an American and I just grew up on American television, I was like, nobody gets my jokes in my videos when I'm talking about cowbell. I don't get any comments about it. And now I can see I'm not alone because I gotta have more cowbell. I wish my Christopher Walken impersonation was way better. Anyway, about this, what Mark is doing here, he's actually doing a very correct tactic. If you think about it, we as humans, this is how we work. Take any country, and this country will have the left and the right and the middle and top and bottom and the green and the brown and whatever, and they're everybody in everybody's else throats. I'm gonna kill you right now, you don't think like I do. But as soon as the country is going to be, God forbid, attacked by, some outer force or something like this, another country attacks you, that's it. No more left, no more right, no more top, no more down. Suddenly everybody is their nationality and they are united. If right now we are countries, we are fighting, some countries are fighting, blah, blah, blah. Let's say tomorrow, an alien race is going to attack us. There's not going to be Americans, Europeans, Africans, whatever. There's just going to be one humanity united under one threat. And this is what Mark is doing here. He's explaining, guys, we are all innies. This is what unites us, and we have this threat on us. You can take someone from us and just make them disappear. And this has happened to her. It can happen to all of us. This is not a department problem. This is innie problem. So he kind of is very, very smart in this situation.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
But eventually it seems like hostilities were put to rest, as the Goat Farm and Mark and Helly seemed to come to an agreement. And if it was in fact Lumen who...
Guess what?
When her and Mark first started talking. Part of me was half expecting to see Christopher Walken come out one of the doors saying he needs more cowbell.
Guess what? I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
But eventually it seems like hostilities were put to rest, as the Goat Farm and Mark and Helly seemed to come to an agreement. And if it was in fact Lumen who started all of these rumors about the departments in order to keep them in fear of one another, then I imagine this could potentially end very badly for MDR and for the Goat people, especially for the Goat people in particular. It seems like Lumen does have a vested interest in Mark and his MDR team to complete Cold Harbor, but the Goat people themselves could potentially be at risk for being retired. And eventually, the Goat people do admit that they have seen Miss Casey before and that she has indeed performed wellness visits here at the Goat Farm in the past, giving Mark and Helly a little bit more hope that they might actually find her. And we hear earlier in the episode that Mark's innie does have a plan if he does eventually find her, to get her to the stairwell where hopefully his Audi will take over from there and get her out of the building, which, if nothing else, is a risky plan to say the least. We also get some pretty good scenes with Irving and Felicia when he does eventually make it to Optics and Design. This being the first time he has ever...
By the way, regarding the plan, when I was doing my review, I was thinking, yeah, it sounds good, but actually sounds a very good plan. But if Mark thinks that he can, leave through the stair room from the one that Helly R used in season 1, episode 1, then he can just put a note and leave through the same door. And on the note, it will be written your wife is alive, she's in there. Because if he believes that they're not going to let him leave with the note, there is a very good chance they're not going to leave with Miss Casey also. He's probably going to be stopped in this situation. Anyway, moving forward.
Returned there since Bert's retirement, which not only hit Irving incredibly hard, but also was the catalyst that got him to realize that Lumen had a bit of a dark side, and maybe wasn't as worthy of the praise that he used to give them, which ultimately gave him the courage he needed to help his fellow MDR coworkers rebel at the end of Season 1. And here we see Irving and Felicia sharing some good memories about Bert and how he was apparently a very fierce department head, with Irving also showing Felicia the sketches that he made of Bert in his spare time on the days that he couldn't see him, which leads her to stumble upon Irving's other drawing of the mysterious hallway with the elevator and the red button, which we now learn is referred to as the export hall, and how Optics and Design used to send shipments there regularly, at least until Felicia says that a courier took over and started making the deliveries himself. And I get the feeling that was no throwaway line, to say the least. I get the feeling that this courier is going to play a part at some point in Season 3, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if at some point Irving himself goes in search of this courier in hopes of finding answers. And seeing as shipments were sent to this mysterious hallway on top of Miss Casey also being sent down there as well, I'm starting to wonder if that mysterious elevator ends up leading to more than just one location, and maybe there are more destinations than just this testing floor we hear Miss Cobell referring to in Season 1. The same testing floor that Miss Casey is likely being held on. But next we catch up with Dylan G, and the highly anticipated meeting with his Audie's family. At the beginning of the episode, Dylan was a little bit out of sorts as Mark was asking him to go to the break room to search for Miss Casey. As little did they know, he had a secret of his own in mind. In a previous episode, we heard Mr. Milchick state to Dylan G that he wants him to keep the family visiting center under wraps, as Dylan is the only one with a family on the outside. And I imagine these family visits are going to become a little bit of a problem between Dylan and his fellow coworkers, and I could see a little bit of a schism developing between them. After all, the more Dylan G gets to know his family on the outside, the more he is going to start becoming incredibly loyal to them, and maybe less loyal to his fellow coworkers, which could potentially be exactly what Lumen wants in the first place. After all, the entire visiting center is basically one giant perk for Dylan for doing a good job. And I imagine going forward, Dylan is going to become the model employee so he can continue to have these visits. The perfect manipulation strategy by Lumen to keep him loyal to the company.
But a big question here is, since we know that the main focus right now is on Cold Harbor, and Mark is the one who works on Cold Harbor, why is Dylan also that important? I mean, we know why he's important to Mark. Mark is not going to work unless he gets his team. But why is it so important to keep Dylan's efficiency on a high level if like everything right now is all around the Cold Harbor file, and the only thing that is important is that Mark will finish the file? So I think this is the question that we also need to be answered.
For the most part, the visit does go pretty well, with Dylan learning not only a little bit more about his family and his children, but also learning a little bit more about his Audi, and how he usually has a tough time keeping the job. Which, if nothing else, I imagine is shattering the image that Dylan G had in his head about who his Audi really was. Unfortunately, he is no muscle man like Dylan had hoped. And I could definitely see an interesting dynamic developing here as well, if Dylan's wife ends up falling a little bit more for Dylan's innie than his Audi, which of course...
Ben Stiller said in his podcast, this is exactly what's happening. This is how they were directing the episode. They wanted her to show like she is a bit falling in love, not in love, maybe falling a little bit for him, because once again, she knows the guy, she's attracted to him, and right now she's seeing him in this kind of a new persona, like he's suddenly like exciting and he's happy and he's energetic. And by the way, I asked this question in my Telegram chat. What do you guys think? If she's like falling for Innie Dylan, is that cheating or not? Would you consider this cheating? Like, let's say your husband or your wife basically falling in love with you, but not exactly you, in a different personality of you. Would you consider this cheating? I think this is a great question. By the way, how amazing is this show that it makes us ask those kind of questions?
Of course, could not only complicate things for Dylan G inside the office, but could also complicate things for his home life as well. And speaking of complicated matters, we also get some interesting scenes with Miss Cobell as well, as at the beginning of the episode we see that she is now living out of her car since her cover has been blown and she fled her house. In last week's episode, we saw Helena offer Miss Cobell a new promotion, which of course Miss Cobell took as anything but, as she very much still has her eyes set on regaining the management position on the severed floor, and is even requesting that Mr. Milchick be removed. And we get a pretty interesting conversation between Miss Cobell and Helena in this episode as well, as Helena once again tries to bring Miss Cobell back into the fold. And I am starting to get the sense that Miss Cobell may potentially have some kind of dirt on Lumen or on Helena that she has yet to reveal. After all, you would think that Lumen and Helena would want to sever ties with Miss Cobell permanently, especially after she revealed how unstable she really is. So I definitely get the sense that there is some deeper reasoning beneath the surface that Helena is trying to continue to bring her back into Lumen, almost as if she wants to keep her close in order to keep an eye on her. But unfortunately, the interaction ends with Miss Cobell fleeing once more, as she seemingly gets a bad vibe from Helena and her bodyguard. We also get a pretty interesting scene with Rickon in this episode as well, as Lumen has seemingly started to take an interest in his life as well, and in particular, his book, indicating that they would like Rickon to come out with any version of his book for the severed employees. And once again, we see Lumen worming their way closer and closer to Mark's life. Just what exactly is it about Mark that is so intriguing and so important to Lumen that they are trying to worm their way into almost every facet of his existence? Is it simply all in an effort for him to complete this Cold Harbor project, or is there something a little bit deeper going on? After all, Lumen may have potentially faked his own wife's death in order to make her a severed employee. So whatever the ultimate endgame is here, if nothing else, they are certainly very invested in Mark and his future. And speaking of Mark's future, the episode ends with a startling revelation for him as he learns that his wife Gemma is indeed still alive and stuck at Lumen, or at least was, according to Rahigby. We see earlier in the episode that Mark is trying to come up with some kind of way to get a message to his innie, going so far as to try and attempt to burn a message into his retina, an ill-advised plan to say the least. With Rahigby mentioning that there is only one potential way to get information in and out of Lumen, and that of course is reintegration, which she does indeed offer to do for Mark, stating that she has gotten a lot better at the procedure since Petey, which if nothing else could indicate that there are other potential Severed employees on the floor that may already be reintegrated and working undercover for their rebellion. And of course,
I also thought about it, but then like, wouldn't like Lumen have some kind of like malfunction? Like let's say you are reintegrated and you're going down the elevator, the lift, and then you know the system's supposed to switch you off or switch you on to your innie, but there's already something that is not working here, like your brain waves already working differently. It would probably indicate some kind of a malfunction. Like, can you actually fool this system that way? I don't know, but once again, I could be wrong here.
Of course, upon learning this revelation about his wife potentially still being alive, Mark eagerly agrees to undergo the reintegration process, which of course was something that we did indeed predict last week based on the new intro sequence for Severance Season 2, after seeing what appeared to be Mark's innie breaking his way to the surface in the intro sequence. And I thought it was pretty interesting that as Mark is preparing to undergo the reintegration process, we see him dressed in almost the exact same outfit that we see him dressed in the intro sequence itself, with the red shirt. And we also learn a little bit more about the very nature of severance and reintegration, how when someone undergoes the severance program, they essentially create two separate brainwaves for each personality. And how to successfully reintegrate means syncing both of those brainwaves back up into one, essentially uniting two halves of the brain once again. But what exactly will the full end result of this look like? What will happen to the innie persona? Will it simply be absorbed into one in some form of symbiosis? And if so, could Mark potentially take on some of the character traits of his innie, like his feelings for Helly, for instance? After all, it would be incredibly tragic if Mark underwent all of this just to be reunited with his wife, only to end up losing some of those feelings for her in the long run, with Helly ending up becoming the object of his desire. Whatever happens, I imagine it's going to be very interesting to say the least, and it looks like it is starting to be successful. As the reintegration process starts, it looks like Outie Mark is starting to lose some of his memories and starting to remember some of his innie memories as well, in particular his first day at Lumen waking up on the table. Or could we potentially see a catastrophic accident where Outie Mark's persona is erased entirely and he is left only with his innie persona, and in turn losing all the feelings he once had for his wife Gemma? Whatever ends up happening, I get the feeling there are going to be some hiccups along the way, and this is not going to be a quick and clean reintegration process. And it will be interesting to see what kind of side effects come along with it. But there we have it, folks. Episode 3 of Severance is in the books, and things are really starting to heat up now. With Mark finally learning the truth about the fate of his wife and the reintegration process beginning, I get the feeling we are going to see a roller coaster of emotions from here on out for the rest of the season. And definitely leave your thoughts and comments down below. Where do you think Season 2 is going to progress, and what will ultimately happen with Mark's reintegration? And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like on your way out, and consider subscribing to stay up to date on all of our upcoming Severance content. And as always, keep those tinfoil hats on, Sebbies, and I will see you on the next one.
This video has criminally low amount of views. 1,200 views. I mean, what the hell is going on with people? Like, this is a great video. It has some very interesting thoughts. It has some very interesting... This is entertaining. Like, I didn't feel like getting bored in one moment. Like, even when Jeremy is recapping things, and I know them, like I watched the episode twice, I did a review myself, I didn't feel like bored and like, come on, let's move on to the point. Like, it still felt entertaining. He has a great voice. Everything, like he has a great vocabulary, which you cannot say about me. Yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on. This guy definitely deserves way more views here. Okay, let's see. I know I don't like give advices, especially to people that have more subscribers than I am, especially when people didn't ask for an advice. But if I can give you an advice, and if you want to do with it whatever you want, like always think about the time code, and if your like text is being covered with a time code, even if people understand like will reintegration work, that's like it's understandable what is hidden there, it still creates like this little bit of discomfort. And human beings are like we are creatures of a path of the least resistance, so if we're gonna see like a couple of videos on the same topic and I don't really know the creators, like I don't really care about which one I'm gonna click right now, usually I'm gonna click on the most interesting thumbnail. So yeah, maybe that's why. I don't know what else, man. Maybe it's just not enough time, maybe just one day and it's gonna pick up. So yeah, hopefully it's gonna become bigger. Anyway, let's see what's going on with our survey here. Okay, wow, 84% thinks this is Helena. Wow, I was not expecting that. I was expecting it to be Helena, but I thought it's gonna be like 60-40 or something like this. 84% thinks this is Helena. Okay, I'm there too, like I'm not convinced yet. A part of me really wants it to be Helly because I love her character, and I've like having 3 episodes without Helly R is just painful to me. But yeah, like yeah, there's a lot of signs and a lot of indications that this is probably actually Helena. Now, let's do another poll. So let's see what else we want to ask. Is it cheating to fall in love with an innie? Let's see how that goes, and hopefully your spouses are not in the chat so they will not see your answer. Be careful. Yes, oh, I have the answers already. Let's make it more awesome. Yeah and nah. Okay, start poll. Who are we gonna watch next? Who are we gonna watch next? Come on. Maybe the algorithm will advise me someone. It advised me my own live stream. 167 people. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Okay. Channels. Come on, guys. Guys and girls and boys and girls and everybody. I think we should separate consciousness. The faceless girl is not. Yeah, I know her. I've seen her videos on From. Didn't see like I seen her videos on From. I don't know her. Also, never has spoken, but I know she did a great videos on From, and never seen even one video of her on Severance. Even if I like maybe clicked on it, I didn't even watch. Okay, everyone missed Severance 2, episode 2 explained. 27,000 views. This is good. Okay, this is the amount of views. Okay, huge and from writers and directors into. This is from. Okay, episode 2, guys. I wanna watch episode 3. I don't wanna watch episode 2 right now. She didn't drop episode 3 yet. So unfortunately, we're not gonna be watching this right now. Okay, well, it looks like, every time it's above 10k views. So yeah, it looks like the channel is doing good. So anybody else? Come on. Anybody else who already dropped? Okay. Okay, we had Real Enigmas. We already have seen his video, and we've seen Jeremy, Ice and Fire. What else, guys? PM Philosophy. Oh, I actually know her. We've talked in Discord. Did she drop? Okay, how I'm not subscribed? Did she drop a video? Okay, no, that's not shorts. I need the videos. Okay, Severance, what you missed. What is Irving's message to his innie? Okay, since it's also, I think this is episode 1. And by the way, let's give this girl some support. She's trying really. Also, like, once again, I don't feel entitled to give this kind of an advice, but I do think like there's a lot of YouTubers that miss this point, especially in the beginning. Like, thumbnail and the name of the video sometimes is more important than a video itself. You obviously need to have an entertaining and interesting video, but people choose whether to see your video or not to see your video based on the name and the thumbnail. And here I'm looking at like Irving's message to his ini. It's hard for me to read it on your thumbnail here. So like, since you put so much effort on the video, usually it takes hours and hours. For me, it takes almost a day, like between 10 to 12 hours to make a review. So then you think to yourself, okay, I'm like super tired. I need to make this thumbnail already and I need to like let it go, drop this video. But no, you need to put almost as much as effort as you put on your videos, on your thumbnails, because it doesn't really matter how good your video is. If your thumbnail is not inviting, people are not going to see it. And then your video is just not going to be seen, which is going to be a bummer. So if you are in the beginning, and please always like put an effort in it. I found a guy in Russia because like he's in Russia and not like in United States or something like this. He's doing a great job, and his rates are something that I can cover by myself. I can make my own thumbnails. I know how to work Photoshop, but he's taking it to another level, and I'm more than happy to pay him like $10 per thumbnail because like it makes my video stand out more. Okay. And especially right now when everybody is doing reviews on Severance, everybody and their sister are doing reviews, you need to find as many ways and paths to somehow make yourself stand out. And by the way, the battery on my camera is almost about to die, so give me a couple of seconds, guys. I'm gonna change the battery. I'm gonna disappear for a second, and then I'm gonna reappear. Meanwhile, you can still chat on. Okay, so who else are we gonna check today when there is no way we're stopping on only 2 videos? Okay. Hey, come on, there's no way. No hacks episode 3. I can go to the big channels meanwhile, but you know, like, those guys definitely need me in order for, you know, to be promoted. So I kind of wish I would actually go to, let's just let's just use the Severance season 2 episode 3 review. Okay, we have Pete Peppers, 100k views. We have Think Story, 200,000 views. Shit, come on, that's a lot. ScreenCrush with 90,000 views. Brain Pilot, 40,000 views. This is what I'm saying. Those are the big guys with the V here. They really don't need my help. Like new rock stars. Where are the smaller guys? Come on. Okay, so let's watch one of those. Let's watch Pete Peppers. Actually, I know about this guy. I never have seen his videos. It's almost half an hour, so we're gonna watch him on a speed of 1.5.
The first 2 episodes of Severance's second season kept the innie and outie story separate, so it feels right that after they're reintegrated in the third that Mark follows suit. Who is Alive takes its name from his plan A, of trying to pass on an after image addressing the cryptic question his innie left behind from his short stay in the outie world. What's funny is that it's not even that mysterious if you look at the clues objectively, but it's also nearly impossible to believe what you conclude after following them. After spending time with Petey, who was obviously suffering, it was always going to be a tough sell to get Mark to undertake the process. Ragabi's assurances that she's somehow gotten better at it wouldn't have been enough. Suffering was only the beginning for Petey, who, let's not forget, ended up dying. So it was always going to take something like this to make it happen. Mark has been painted as the right kind of desperate. Still, there also needs to be enough there for him to buy into the idea.
Okay, I can see that you're writing to me about Nautilus files. Okay, I'm gonna remember that, and we're gonna watch Nautilus files after that one.
idea that it's possible that Lumen could be conducting experiments, or whatever might explain why his dead wife is actually alive there. As viewers, we already know what's up, even if we don't know exactly how she got there or what they're trying to accomplish with her. The show even added a little more in this episode, with Harmony freaking out after Helena's invitation to come inside and sit down with the board. In the last episode, some seeds were planted, with Milchek bringing Gemma up in the same exchange where he told Mark his any found love on the inside, and Cobell's reaction when he asked if she knew something about his wife. This stuff was already bouncing around inside his skull, and her being an ex-employee with inside information, including knowledge of the OTC that just happened, helped get him where we needed him to go. Ragabi's timing turned out to be on the money. The thing that works, though, and makes this ending so exciting and satisfying is that, of course, he has to try. Logic must be put to the side when you get an even remotely credible opportunity like this. If he were standing outside a burning building and found out she was in there, he'd go regardless of the chance of success. So he's going when a freaky global conglomerate centered in the cult of personality surrounding Kier Egan that he also happens to work for, even if he has no memory of that due to voluntarily surgically separating his memories, if they're possibly holding her, without a doubt, he's going to do what he can to get inside and get his wife back if she's still alive there. In addition, the show continues to deliver smaller reveals on its way to explaining how any of this might be possible. It's almost like they're following a checklist, checking things off. There's movement on finding the testing floor, and there are hints at what Cobell's deal is. We need to put the Ricking is really a secret Egan theory to bed. And oh yeah, goats. We need to reintroduce the goats by the end of the third episode to give those folks something to chew on. If it's not readily apparent, I'm not complaining. It's fun to feel like this back and forth exists between the show and those of us who are really paying attention, as long as it doesn't become only that. And with everything else the show does well, I'd say it hasn't. After an intro shot of Harmony waking up on the side of the highway to let us know where she went after racing out of the neighborhood, suitcase in hand, Ms. Cobell cues up some Stone Roses on her cassette deck to serve as a soundtrack, while Audi Mark is working on his plan to get a message through the detectors on the severed floor. There, his enemy is trying to rally the MDR troops to use their new hall passes to go and get the word out about Ms. Casey's disappearance. If you compare this to their shared enthusiasm before the OTC, there's a noticeable drop-off in team spirit. Herb is unsure about returning to O&D, and Dylan won't commit, but we find out later that his first family visit has already been scheduled. Helly is the only one who appears completely on board in this first scene, and after the awkward, intimate moment they share in the hallway after they leave, I don't think many people will entertain the idea that this is actually Helly rather than Helena. To set that up, this character, who I'm going to call Helly for simplicity and because it's a fun name to say, while limiting the chances for me to mispronounce Helena after saying that name a completely different way for a whole season of House of the Dragon. To set this up, Helly asks Mark about his plans if they actually find her. Right before that, there's also a brief exchange where she tries to show support for Herb about returning to O&D, which seems somewhat forced, and is something he may have picked up on as well. Mark explains he's trying to get Miss Casey to the south stairwell. If he goes with her and they can make it through the door, his Audi would take over right on the threshold and know what to do. It's not a bad plan. On rewatch, their walk down the hall is some of the best work I think Britt Lauer has done on this season so far. The walk is almost Helly's, and it seems like there is an effort to talk and respond like her. Like she reviewed the tapes and is really trying to get this right. But it's all a little off, and then when they stop so that he can ask if she's sure she's alright helping him with this, it all falls apart. I guess I should say this is all based on my assumption that this is Helena role-playing as her innie, just in case you haven't watched my other videos. But when they lean in like two middle schoolers who have the hots for each other, and then no one makes a move, that's just not Helly R. She would have been on that, because unlike her Audi, who can make it sound convincing when she says they fear no one, Helly is actually fearless. They eventually reach the goat nursery they found last season, which is now empty, where they notice a small passageway on the floor level that Mark decides to crawl down to investigate. It's a small detail, but one I love, that this is essentially a livestock shoot that they decided to finish, so it resembles the regular halls in the building. When they get to the end, they discover a full-on goat habitat with grass and hills, and it's a whole thing. The animals are just doing goat stuff, and at first they don't see any humans around. We can see what can only be described as a goat man wearing a costume that helps him blend in with the background, and then a new character, played by Gwendolyn Christie, appears on top of one of the hills. She has some type of trimmer in her hand and asks soberly if they're there to kill her. They show her the missing poster and explain that they're looking for Miss Casey. This is one of those scenes that's so disorienting in a way, mostly a good way, but you can't really tell if it's essential and that all of these details will eventually matter, or if it's just to add to the weirdness of their experience and the severed floor more generally. Either way, it's fun. Lorne has an intriguing way about her, and her department, the Mammalians Nurturable, is responsible for the goats and whatever goes on there. She doesn't want to help at first and says they don't abide by such fripperies as wellness, but Mark senses she's lying. This new version of Mark S that's been coming out of his shell since the second half of last season continues to push, until she eventually sounds the alarm, and it turns out the Mammalians have a pretty large department. Compared to the other severed workers we met, including the man who was nursing the baby goats initially, who shows up here again, and Lorne herself, the rest of the department looks different. Sure, goat work might be dirty, but they look odd and somewhat affected. I'm not sure what to make of it. If the goat man didn't chime in and say that Ms. Casey told him his Audi excelled at stargazing, I wouldn't be sure that the implication was that they were typical severed employees who go home every night. They're a colorful bunch who are also fond of Ms. Casey. They heard the same story about her retiring, and ultimately they say they won't stand in MDR's way if they think something else is going on. The funniest part of this comes at the end when they're getting ready to leave, and the nursery guy clears his throat, prompting Lorne to ask to see their bellies to make sure they don't have pouches. This is a reference to the story Bert told Irv last season, and I loved how even when presented with indisputable evidence, he says it proves nothing. Does the fact that they have green badges, albeit a different shade than O&D, matter? Will they show up again down the road to do something important? Maybe? Him saying that it was an any problem seemed to get through, and that wraps up up Mark S. and Helena's adventures, but while they were gone, the episode bounced around the severed floor where there were several other developments. Before he leaves for O&D, Irv approaches Dylan to tell him he recreated the painting he saw in his Audi's apartment. They do this in whispers because they interpreted Lumen is listening as having a double meaning, which is smart, but Irv is drawing on the scene they shared at the end of episode 1. He thinks the hallway may be on the severed floor and thinks it must be important if his Audi went through the trouble to try to send him the message, which he thinks is tied to the dreams he was having, so he wants his friend to help him look for it. Dylan tries to convince him to go alone for reasons related to stealth, but then Miss Wong interrupts to save him from having to refuse outright. Irv makes his way to O&D, which is difficult in Bert's absence. Felicia's there to make the emptiness more bearable, and actually turns out to be a much warmer character than she appeared to be in her feuding with Dylan. She welcomes him with a hug, and they bond over their affection for Bert. She worked with him for 6 years, and the only time she saw him scared was when he spent 2 hours on his hair before coming to meet Irv. When he shows her his book full of drawings he made of Bert, she also sees his drawing of the testing floor elevator. This is something she recognizes right away and calls it the exports hall. She wonders how he knows about it and says O&D sends a lot of shipments there, adding that they used to deliver them themselves, but now exports sends a guy. This is a development to be sure, and the actor does a good job conveying an unsettling feeling in relation to the elevator, but we'll have to wait and find out what it means. He does ask if she remembers where it is, and we're left to assume that she probably told him after it cuts away. After experiencing some disappointment that may also border on anger from finding Mark's abandoned balloons, Milchek is surprised to find Natalie waiting for him in his office. She's got the board on the line, which is every bit as awkward for him as when Harmony had to figure out what to say to them, but she's there to pass on their congratulations at his ascendance. Then she gives him a bizarre gift, which is essentially the Kier cycle of paintings where his image has been transformed to look more like Seth. As in, it's not just that the skin tone is changed, but it almost looks like their features are blended together. It's presented with the typical Lumen jargon. They want him to feel connected to their history and call them inclusively recanonicalized paintings that are intended to help Seth see himself in the founder Kier. It's weird, and even though he says he's grateful like you would, it doesn't look like he's sure how to feel about them. The board prompts Natalie to tell him she got the same gift when she was promoted to her current position and loved it. And after the call's over, there's a lingering shot where he looks like he wants to say something, but she just continues smiling until the moment passes. Later, we see him finishing up his work with some intriguing shots of his screens that are hard to decipher. There are terms like administrative control panel listing, executive drawer system, and active surveillance source list, which when you add them all up are just pretty vague. When he closes down his terminal and...
By the way, also thanks to my subscribers and my viewers, one of them noticed that not this screen, but the screen before that, like I'm gonna see it right now, maybe I'm gonna find it here, in my Severance images, milkshake, where is the screen? Yeah, this one. Like if you see this screen, the numbers here, the 827, 954, 918, the hell? It thinks it's a phone number. Thank you, MacBook. Those are the same numbers that Dylan has seen in the end of season 1 when he was switching them, switching the innies on the outside. So let's say this is Mark, this is Helena, this is Irving, and this is Dylan, or maybe just this different names here, different structure, but those are our 4 MDRs. So this is them, but what does it mean? Everything that's like the log and the numbers and all of this, like 9, 10, 11, 12. And he was like he was switching between this and that, like in the scene, if you can actually check this out, he was switching between this part of the square to this part of the square, and he chose this one, and then he moved to this shot that we're seeing right now in the review here. So kind of gives you a little bit more of an insight, but yeah, he is doing something with our innies, and it kind of feels a little bit terrifying if he can actually control them that way. He can actually, not only maybe follow them and see where they are and what they're doing, but he actually turn on something in the chip that will maybe stimulate some other behavior. So yeah, scary.
An active surveillance source list, which when you add them all up are just pretty vague. When he closes down his terminal and grabs his motorcycle helmet to leave, he takes another look at his Kier cycle before boxing it up and putting it away on top of one of the shelves in that storage area behind the wall in his office. To this point, Milchek has been challenging to get any real read on as a character since he mostly just does his job. I'm curious to see if this season will look closer at who he is under the facade he's so good at maintaining in the office. The performance is already outstanding, so it'd be nice to have some substance to go with it. His protege, I guess that's what you'd call her, Miss Wong, is still a child. On their walk walk, Dylan inquires about this directly. He doesn't want to be rude, but wants to make sure she's okay and that they're not forcing her to be there. She never looks like she even considers answering, but otherwise seems to be entirely happy performing her work tasks. Not to say that makes child labor okay, but she just doesn't look to be distressed. She takes him to the security room, which, like the break room, has also had a makeover. Now it's the Audi family visitation area, and after looking at a wall of pictures that show them smiling together, he meets his Audi's wife, Gretchen, who's played by Merritt Weaver. He's earned an 18-minute visitation, which is awkward for her and for him to a certain extent, but he spends most of it beaming, just visibly overwhelmed with joy. She's kind of shocked that he doesn't know her at all, and we see that they're being monitored through a security camera. Miss Wong interrupts when she almost inadvertently reveals Mr. Milchek's first name, and it's kind of funny because she doesn't have any problem hearing what Gretchen says when she tries to whisper to him. As much as he enjoys her presence, Dylan worries that he might be in trouble. She says he just hasn't found his thing, which Dylan interprets as her saying he's kind of a fuck-up. To redirect things, she shows him a picture of their kids. They're 6, 4, and 2, and he's blown away by how cute they all are. The picture she chose is one of those old-timey dress-up ones you get at amusement parks, and when he asks if they live on a cattle ranch, she smiles in a way that indicates she sees this different version of her husband as distinct for the first time. It cuts away before we see how things progress, but when they return for their goodbyes later, you can't help wondering how someone's significant other would view their innie. This feels like a whole other avenue they could go down, and their hug and him hearing her say I love you and not knowing how to react all make me want to see them explore it. We also get one scene with her and Audi Dylan at home. He's sitting on the couch, and if you zoom in, you'll see that he's reading the latest issue of Midlife Driver magazine, and she's getting ready to leave for work. It looks like she's a nighttime security guard or something similar. He asks how the visit went, and she sort of plays it off, saying it was good, you know, weird good, but good. It's exciting to see more Audi action, especially with Dylan, who was stuck doing the heavy lifting in the security office during the OTC. Just to point it out, we also get a shot of his pineapple sitting on their table, which means one has shown up in every episode thus far. This is another fine casting choice that does double duty, since it's also an effective way for Milchek to undermine the team's solidarity, which is confirmed when Dylan promises he'll be good to make the fam proud. While he's doing that, Natalie works on isolating Devin by cozying up to Rickon. There's a definite parallel between the glowing looks he tosses out while soaking up her praise for his writing and the way Dylan listened to Gretchen talk about their family. We get another excerpt from the UUR, which Natalie expertly delivers using her media training, but surely beer and juleps cannot fill the void left by love. Indeed, only wine can achieve this, but it is famously costly, which is why sadness is among the most recurrent issues facing the poor. The costly part might turn out to be an important detail, because at first I was thinking, why would Rickon agree to change his book for Lumen? Then I thought about the quality of that sentence and the potential of having a corporation offer a commission to supply copies to all of their severed departments around the world. I think we're talking about a massive increase in sales. If we use his response to her compliment about the astute quality of the line I just mentioned as a gauge, I'd say they could sow some division in the Hale household by offering him a substantial payday. It seems like that's what they're trying to do after Mr. Drummond overheard Mark and Devin's conversation in Pips and decided she was the more troublesome one, which all should make for a welcome development. Of course, Rickon likes to think his words have had a profound impact, and the idea that his book could be a game changer with a few tweaks. The story is that severed employees respond more favorably to certain verbiage. Devin isn't cool with any of it, including a Lumen representative coming over to talk to her husband in their home. The company still hasn't explained how the book ended up inside in the first place.
By the way, in the book, it's written that Devin basically convinced Rickon to move in to live in the woods like a year ago, when the truck, I forgot, the company that starts with the D, you remember from the Lexington letter, like the company that was, its truck was blown up after the Lexington file was finished. It started with a D somehow, maybe somebody in the chat will remind me. So she was so afraid. They used to live in New York, and she was so afraid, you know, of this terrorist act, so she forced her husband to actually move to the forest area. So she probably has a lot of fear towards Lumen way before, you know, our whole story even started.
When Natalie tries to smooth things over by telling her how much everyone loves Marcini, she says he's a
Wait
good...
a second, I have to stop. Somebody donated $20. Come on, I have to read. First of all, thank you so much, Ash. This is very generous, like a lot. I almost feel like uncomfortable a little bit, like because it's too much. But anyway, like I don't never go to anybody's pocket. You donate whatever you feel it is comfortable for you. Zero, also a great option. Before I forget, just sending some gratitude your way for setting this up. Love your channel and discovering new ones. Thank you. I thought there's gonna be a question, but thank you. I love compliments. You know, I like unlike any other. Oh, my English sometimes fails me. Unlike other people that don't like being complimented, I'm a weird one. I like to get compliments.
good egg before
This is
leaving to meet
sarcasm,
him. They're working
obviously.
on the after image project, which she hasn't told Rickon about, and that kind of becomes inconsequential because of what happens at the end. With that in mind, what seems important here is their connection, and that her one request for him is to be careful, which turns out to be the exact opposite of what he decides to do. While he goes to pull up somewhere that's presumably on his route to work and close enough to the office to make it practical, Ragabi shows up. While that's happening, we also see Cobell standing outside the Lumen headquarters waiting for Helena. Earlier in the episode, we saw her come to a sign on the highway that said Salt's Neck 238 miles. My best guess is that this is where she grew up, or possibly where the Myrtle Egan School for Girls is located, but it seems more likely that that would be in Kier since the family is so entrenched there.
Either
Either
one
way,
of
she
those
looked at the
two, yeah.
sign and then looked at her mother's medical tube, which she had riding shotgun in her passenger seat before turning around. Helena does exit the building where
Still not 100% sure this is her mother. Like 99% this is her, but can be somebody else. I mean, Harmony Cobell and Miss Selvig could easily be like a new name that she has taken, like, and maybe she was like, maybe she's Charlotte, she used to be that, and now she wants to be somebody else, and this is why she took a different name. Because Harmony, yeah, sounds kind of like invented name, like this is somebody you would take for yourself. Maybe I was wrong. I'm not ready to rule like 100% that the breathing tube was her mother's.
her car is waiting for her, and she comes over to talk to Harmony as soon as she sees her. A charge back and forth develops where Cobell tries to demand to be given MDR back and have Milchek removed. She implies that Mark being so close to completing Cold Harbor is her primary motivation, which again, why is this file so important? But the stipulation about Seth is about him passing on the photos that got her fired. After her declaration that she intends to finish the work on Mark's project, Helena fires back that she hears ego, hubris, and arrogance, and that Kier teaches them that these only cause pain. They pass several sharp lines to each other. Helena attempts to reassert her dominant position. Harmony gets some shots in by saying things like she earned her position through dedication and industry rather than being born into it. And when it starts to really escalate at the idea that Cobell overestimated her contributions and underestimated her blessings, Helena offers a reset by getting on the phone to see if the board is available to meet with them. It appears that Natalie's on the other line and says they are, but then on the way to go inside, Harmony has the freak out I mentioned earlier. This goes back to her insisting that they didn't have a choice about asking her back, and the way Helena questioned that. Perhaps it took a minute to set in, or perhaps it was the goon type guy standing next to her car, but internal alarm bells started going off that prompted Harmony to beat it out of there. And I mean, a meeting with the board is the thing she was trying to make happen for the entire first season, so her fear here is real and probably warranted. At the very least, the thought of never coming back out of there crossed her mind, and that was enough given the power that this institution has. I'm curious to see where she goes from here. I mean, she'll probably go to Salt's Neck, but after that, she seems to have a lot riding on being there when Cold Harbor is finished, and also has very compelling reasons not to be. She races away, which is becoming her signature move this season. They're really getting some mileage out of that White Rabbit. And as far as Helena is concerned, I don't know if this tells us anything new. It reaffirms her commitment to Lumen's success and Mark finishing the project, and maybe underlines the lengths she'd go to achieve them. She appears competent to me, and confident enough given the circumstances. I suppose that's why she'd be willing to go undercover to be close to Mark regardless of anything else, since it seems like the kiss and her Innie's freedom has caught her interest. On her return, Ragabi comes in hot and seems determined to make Mark's reintegration happen. When he last saw her, Mark helped her drag Grainer's dead body before she sent him home. The former head of security had interrupted their meeting. This probably would have taken her off the board if she hadn't gotten the jump on him with that baseball bat, since he had already told Harmony he thought she was responsible for Petey's reintegration at the office. This is something the Egans needed to keep under wraps, and another indication that they'll go to great lengths to protect their interests. The reunion with Mark was inevitable, and I wondered if reintegration might get pushed back to the end of the season when Devin started looking for answers related to her conversation with Innie Mark. Ragabi dismantles the after-image plan, which I guess is the top result when you do a Google search for how to get a message to your Innie, by explaining why it doesn't work. She says that the switch in the elevator briefly dilates the pupils. She uses the term clean slate, which jumped out at me because it's one of the processes that you can see when they flip through the quick start guides in the security office in episode 8. This is a derailment, but you only get a quick glimpse of this. For the most part, the only decipherable thing is the name, Clean Slate Cycle. The assumption in the online community at the time was that this was an indication that they could reset an Innie. That is to say, erase the experiences they had put together.
Where we have seen this?
That the switch in the elevator briefly dilates the pupils. She uses the term clean slate, which jumped out at me because it's one of the processes that you can see when they flip through the quick start guides in the security office in episode 8. This is a derailment, but you only get a quick glimpse of this. For the most part, the only decipherable thing is the name, Clean Slate Cycle. The assumption in the online community at the time was that this was an indication that they could reset an Innie. That is to say, erase the experiences they had.
That is very interesting because every Egan story is being referred as a cycle. Okay, so like we have Kier Egan's cycle. We had a conversation about Ambrose cycle, who was the second CEO. So once again, it kind of works with the whole reviving and making Kier Egan and every other Egan stay alive and being like maybe the same personality in a different body, like a Get Out situation, or maybe even something else. Like I can also imagine, as I said in my review, maybe all of the Agans are actually laying somewhere there, not like the wax figures, but just, their bodies. Also, like we are seeing so much symbolism with that's been related to communism. Like Mark, he has a watch with the red star and with the symbol of Soviet Union, Air Force there. His wife was a Russian professor, Russian literature. I hate this fucking word, literature professor. And we also have like them wearing those hats in the trailer. This is basically, my father used to wear that kind of a hat when I was super small and we still lived in Ukraine when it was Soviet Union. So there are a lot of references, and like the image of Kir Agan on a big wall, and if you're gonna see some images of Lenin and Stalin, it kind of looks very similar. And if you know, like Lenin, he wasn't buried, he wasn't cremated. His body is still laying there in the Kremlin and waiting to be revived or some shit like this. So there's a lot of similarities here. So I think he's onto something.
And put together in their time on the severed floor, and start over with a clean slate. Her using this term specifically seems about as intentional as some of the other carefully placed details that reference things viewers might be thinking about. But from that, can you jump to a conclusion that they can't reset in these experiences? Like I said, it's a derailment, make of it what you will. While we're on things I've said previously, there was also that bit about her knowing about the OTC. This should be privileged information, which I guess she could find out from old contacts she still has at Lumen. I mean, the story is out there in the public, but the way she talks about it seems like she had actual details of what went on. The other thing about this is that it might connect the dots between her and Irv if the message he left from the payphone last episode somehow got back to her. As in they're working together, or they're working for a group that is somehow connected. All of that speculation is promptly pushed to the side when she just comes out and answers the question that he's trying to pass through to his innie. She asks if when he talked to Devin, he brought up Gemma. And when Mark asks her directly if she's alive in there, Ragabi confirms Gemma was alive the last time she saw her. So no beating around the bush at all. And Mark can't believe it. He almost can't stand up after hearing the news. And she does come off as a credible source. That also means that we just sort of trust her because we want what she's offering as much as Mark does. I'm not sure she's earned that yet, and we should probably be on the lookout for red flags now that it's likely too late to reverse the process. She says she wants to help him at least, and the last thing she says is that she can sew together a version of him who loves her with a version of him who can, but he interrupts her there because of course he wants to see his wife. The reintegration sequence itself is what we signed up for. Just every part of this scene is working. Her gadgets, a bunch of scopes and other things, the sounds they make, and she uses a Chladni plate, which adds a nice visual. This is a metal plate with sand on it that rearranges itself in patterns due to vibrations. The actor brings a presence, and that gives some authority to the things she's telling Mark. As a bonus, it all sounds feasible enough. She tells him the monitors differentiate the 5 brainwave frequencies. Each of those produces 2 waves on the oscilloscope that they're trying to sync up. Basically, one for the innie and one for the outie. Right before she starts asking questions to make sure it's working, his hand starts shaking uncontrollably, and we find out that's because she forgot to turn down one of the knobs, which adds a little danger to the process, as does the score and the tight shots of his face, so that when it finally starts to work, and we see him sort of glitching on the table between innie and outie, waking up just like Helly did in the first episode, and we hear Petey doing the routine, which culminates in the question, "Who are you?" We're ready to go on a ride wherever they want to take us. So bam, we're already here. The integrated Mark is on the horizon, and I dig the confidence of introducing this in the 3rd episode, all while moving everything else along in the process. Since I've been upfront about Dylan being my favorite refiner, the developments in his situation are of particular interest. I love that he doesn't get to the idea that his outie is kind of a loser before exhausting the more favorable options of him being dumb or a dick first. Muscle shows don't seem to be nearly as likely as they once did, and it's just funny that it's hard for him to imagine he might not be cool because of how sure he'd been about it before the family session. Initially, I was thinking Gretchen would fall for the innie version, but after thinking about it, the concept of a throuple has been introduced. Why limit yourself when broadening your horizons could give you the best of both worlds? Although if you think of how each interaction ended, with the innie she goes straight for a hug and "I love you," while with the outie she was on her way out and only talks about the meeting when he asks. She walks out without saying "I love you," and he's just left there watching her go from the couch. As far as how this affects things going forward for the Macrodats, they're really not his main priority now, and he can't even explain why, since Milchek introduced a family visitation as something to keep between them, since the other refiners are all single. So a master stroke from Seth there. His paintings and the look he gave Natalie also have to be leading somewhere. The weirdness and just plain bad attempt at representation could put him on a path to be more sympathetic towards the innies, and I guess in a way Natalie more sympathetic towards him. But I mean, she walks around in a headset that's directly connected to the board. Not sure how you could even take her temperature given that they made a point to say that she had received a similar gift of the same type of paintings. More than anything, I hope this means we'll learn more about Mr. Milchek in the coming episodes. I was somewhat surprised the GOAT department worked as well as it did. I like the weirdness, and even if it doesn't lead to much, I'm happy it's there. But also, this is a pretty big department whose numbers could make a difference if things get crazy. I have questions, which I've already mentioned, as in why did they look like that, but I enjoyed forlorn and the whole pouches bit, so let's see where they take it. Since we're already at reintegration, I hope this means we'll get confirmation about Helena and Helly soon. After the scene with Mark in the hall, it seems pretty obvious what's going on, so let's hope they kinda knew where fans would be at and deliver a definitive answer rather than continuing to drag it out. The Urban Felicia stuff was all fantastic, and it's good to know that we're getting closer to the testing floor as well. Again, it seems like Harmony's gonna be sidelined a little bit until she figures out a way to get back in, but I've liked the last couple of scenes that she shared with Helena. I'm feeling pretty good about where we're at and the way things are shaping up. Probably a lot better than Mark, who should be scared about what he just decided to do based on what happened to Petey. He doesn't know he's the main character, and even though he likely won't die, he might be in for some difficult times in the weeks ahead. I can't wait to see where they go next, and I think that's a great place.
Like, I have a question, like, but also to the chat, like, are you guys and girls, are you more like me, or you prefer those videos when you don't actually see the creator? Because right now in the age of AI, when you can turn on a lot of videos, when there's some kind of a voice, and if you pay for AI, it's gonna be almost indistinguishable for a real voice. I kind of feel like I want to see more like real people like actually talking there, and I know that most of the audience kind of prefers to see the visuals from the movie or from the TV show, but look at this guy, he's a handsome guy. He can like put 5-10 minutes himself on this 30 minutes video. I think it's gonna be better. It makes you feel more connected. This video is super awesome. I can see why this creator is very, very successful. He's 221,000 subscribers. Yeah, that's a lot. So let's subscribe here too. Let's give him another one. The first part of this video was a bit not my cup of tea. Not it's because it's not a good review. It was very entertaining. He has a great voice, but it felt a lot more like a recap with just a small portion of insights. Like it had like 90% recap, like 10% of interesting ideas. But the second part won me over completely. There was a lot of interesting ideas, and there's a lot of like a very cool dry humor. And if you love Severance, you probably love dry humor. So yeah, great guy, great video. Obviously doesn't need my help, but what the hell, if somebody's gonna give him another 10-20 subs, yeah, I think I did my part today. But interesting ideas. So far not something like very substantial that we can add to the theories. Okay, you were talking about Nautilus files or something like this. I think I've seen this channel once or twice maybe. Okay, Rick and Hale, Severance, also just the second episode, also like especially in the scenery of those kind of TV shows like Severance and so on. You should do your best to try to drop the videos as fast as possible. Like I wake up at 5 a.m. On Friday, and I watch the episode, and then I rewatch it, and then I build and I make all of my preparation with a screenshot, and I look for the information, and like and usually like Friday, this is like my family night with me. Like I always go to visit my parents on Friday. But if I'm not if I'm not managing to drop the video on Friday, I'm gonna skip that, because I've noticed many times if I'm releasing a video a day late or a couple of days late, it still can do good, but it will always do a little bit less good, a little bit worse than if I would drop it on the same day. The faster you drop the video, the better views you're gonna have, because a lot of people are coming to your videos not necessarily for the video itself, that are just being pumped after they have seen the episode and they want to discuss it with somebody, so they go to YouTube. Okay, it looks like a great channel, like the same topics that I cover, so same taste in TV shows. There's Severance, there is Silo, there is From. Come on, I mean, like, obviously here. I should definitely check it out, but hopefully maybe on the next live stream, he or she, I think it's a he, I think this is a guy channel, and hopefully next time the episode 4 is going to be dropped quicker, and we're going to check it out. Okay, I'm going to go to the chat. Let's see who else can we watch. Real Enigmas and Theories is a great channel, but we have seen him already today. So, Think Story. Okay, Think Story is amazing, by the way. Like I used to watch his videos way before I started doing...
D once massacred
okay.
the MD. If you're like me,
If you're like me... I watched his video way before I started doing my English channel, and like he always gives some very interesting insights, and he's doing it in a record time. What takes me like 40 minutes, he does in 20. The only topic that I felt like I'm more versed and I have more knowledge than him was From. From his reviews had some insights. I have seen his reviews of From, but I feel like our Fromily community is deeper than his videos. But anyway, let's check this video. I started to watch this and then I had the idea of maybe making a live stream about other YouTube channels. So let's watch. I seen the first part already. Let's watch the whole video.
Finish this episode like... Yeah, this episode had me shaking my head faster than my girlfriend seeing me naked.
Nice hack.
I'm kidding, I don't have a girlfriend. There are so many new clues and theories to discuss, from what does Cobell have on Lumen, will Gretchen fall in love with Dylan's innie, Mark's reintegration, and the goats. We can't forget the damn goats. So warm up some waffles and make sure to like and subscribe. It's time to praise Kier.
I love you.
Well, it looks like Miss Cobell isn't taking Lumen's promotion. Instead, we find her 238 miles away from Salt's Neck, a fictitious town in the middle of nowhere. After having loaded her suitcase and narrowly running over Mark, we notice that she's fixated on something in the passenger seat, a breathing tube. This is the same tube we saw in Season 1 as part of Cobell's shrine to Kier, so obviously this means a lot to her. It's labeled Charlotte Cobell, with the date March 17th, 1944. Charlotte was likely a close family member, perhaps her mother, but the show has kept a lot of mystery surrounding Cobell's mom. At Lumen, Harmony tells Mark that her mother was an atheist.
You know my mother was an atheist.
But in the outside world, she says she was a devout Catholic.
You know my mother was a Catholic.
Whatever happened to Charlotte must tie in with Lumen, as it appears Harmony has some sort of leverage over them which may harm the company.
I was laughing at the comment, Beyond Premiere and Brain Pilot are great small channels covering the show. If Brain Pilot and Beyond Premiere are small, then I don't know what is bigger than small, what is a stronger word, I'm tiniest.
One theory suggests that Cobell is the bastard child of one of the Egans. This may explain why she's obsessed with the Egans and why Helly has to be careful with how she handles her. Cobell could tarnish the Egan name by going to the press and exposing the truth about Lumen and her heritage.
We didn't have to ask about.
No, actually, honestly saying, this is a question about From. I love From, but I really love From. But this is not the same level. Severance is a different level. You have actors like Adam Scott, Christopher Walken, you have John Turturro there. The rest of the cast is absolutely amazing. The production value is top tier, and From is more of a niche TV show, and it's it has some great acting too, but it's it also has sometimes very bad acting, and obviously the production budget and the production value is lower there. But if you like TV shows with mysteries and something that makes you think, then you're gonna enjoy From too.
Back. You didn't have a choice.
She'll find herself back at Lumen and face-to-face with Helena, demanding that her needs be met if she is to return to MDR. After all, they're so close to finishing Cold Harbor, the mysterious case file with connections to Miss Casey. In my past videos, I've argued that MDR is attempting to bring her back, with Lumen's end goal to bring back Kier Egan himself, a process which has not been perfected. Further proof of Cobell's relationship with the Egans is highlighted in her jab at Helena.
Everything I accomplished, I earned. Not because I was born into it.
She, unlike Helena, had to prove herself to Lumen. It's only because Cobell has something on Lumen that Helena acquiesces and asks if she wants to talk to the board. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know of any board that can be assembled at a moment's notice. In my episode 1 video, I theorized that the board isn't a group of people.
Unless they are all in a cryogenic capsule, they're laying in the same room and they're connected to some breathing tubes or some shit like this. I don't think it's a motherboard
At all, but it could be a computer or motherboard. This would explain why we never hear the board speak. This board could be the consciousness.
Actually, we do hear the board speak only once, but in the season 1, they were talking to Cobell and she was screaming at them, "Are you even listening to me?" And they were like, "Yes!" A very tired, a very, a weak voice, but still there was an answer.
Of all the past Egans who guide the company once they've died. It's also kind of weird that Natalie is the only one who seems to hear the board. If you rearrange the letters in her full name, Natalie Kalin, you do get antenna-like, but that just might be a coincidence. Helena also asks Cobell if she wants a reset. This might have a double meaning. Reset as in, hey, we got off on the wrong foot, let's start over again, or a literal reset of her severance chip. One theory out there is that Cobell is or was previously severanced. We see her carry this severance chip as a necklace, and it might explain some of the inconsistencies with her character. A reset could mean something more sinister, like wiping her brain so that she can start a clean slate with our innies. Cobell is set to to talk with the board, but upon seeing Helena's driver, she backs off. Notice how he steps forward and the camera racks focus to him. To my knowledge, this is the first time we've seen him, but something about him makes Cobell back off. It seems like these two have some sort of history. This leaves Cobell's story up in the air. Will she...
I don't think they have a history. I think she just understood that this is not a driver, not only a driver, this is also a bodyguard and potentially, you know, a remover of hats. So she thought to herself, yeah, no, that's not worth the chance. That probably I'm not going to come back alive from this conversation.
She come back to Lumen and simply accept her new position as head of the Severance Advisory Council, try talking with the board another day, or is she done with Lumen for good? Meanwhile, Mark Saudi has devised an elaborate plan to burn his retinas with the phrase, "Who is alive?" This is a desperate attempt to communicate with his Innie, and one which Ragabi says could lead to him permanently blind. Not to mention, how would his Innie get a message back? We haven't seen Ragabi since Season 1 and the murder of Mr. Garner. Her character is shrouded with mystery. All we really know about her is that she once worked for Lumen putting chips in people's heads. Now she's part of an anti-Lumen group reintegrating people back into society. One such person was Petey, and that didn't turn out so well. However, she says this was partly because Petey didn't follow her instructions. Ragabi somehow knows that Mark is in this abandoned area underneath the train tracks. She knows he plans to burn a message into his retinas, and she knows about how the Innies implemented the overtime contingency. She or the people she works with must have eyes on Mark and a spy within Lumen. But one of the biggest pieces of information we get is that she knew Miss Casey. She was alive the last time she saw her. In fact, it's even possible that it was Ragabi who put a chip in Miss Casey's head. Mark's outie is so in pain over the death of his wife, he doesn't even let Ragabi finish her sentence when she asks if he wants the two parts of his severed brain to be sewed together, a process that could have him end up like Petey. She tells him she's gotten better at this, suggesting there have been others who have gone through this process. That means there could be Lumen employees we know who are hiding the fact that they've been reintegrated. You'll notice 5 different colored wires connected to Mark's brain, each one of them representing a different brainwave. I actually found this cool image which goes over each of these waves, and the colors match up with those found on Mark's wires. There are also red and blue wires in the intro credit sequence. I also found it interesting that there are 5 brainwaves and
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, Think's story, he really goes deep. He's not like we have seen a lot of videos today, and I don't think anyone was like going deep on the 5 brainwaves, the delta, theta, alpha, blah, blah, and all of this shit, the colors, and looks like he's also going to talk about the folders.
Also 5 bins in the macro refinement computers. Perhaps by sorting the numbers, MDR is recalibrating a subject's brainwaves, like Miss Casey. Just like how our Innies were given a list of questions upon arrival on the severed floor, so too does Mark. We don't know the technical specifics of what Ragabi is really doing here, but it looks like she's trying to integrate 2 separate waves, one from the Innie and one from the outie, into one frequency. By putting them in sync, she is essentially sewing the 2 parts of the brain together. Although these questions don't give us anything too revelatory, we do find out Mark's mother's name was Fern, a name that interestingly symbolizes eternal life. We'll also see what appears to be salt crystals jump to the vibrations, and it might be a stretch if these are in any way related to this image found in Miss Casey's.
That's definitely not a stretch. I mean, come on, this was obvious related to what we have seen on the screen. How similar are they? The whole scene with Ragabi doing the reintegration, it kind of like shows you her MacGyver in this shit, like what Lumen does with the high-tech technology, with like super developed technology. She's doing it with like an old stuff, and like doing something like with what they have in the place, like salt or sand or whatever this is. Obviously it's kinetic. Like, I'm 99.99% sure this is like an intentional connection between those 2 images.
File. One thing I found quite ominous was Mark's right hand shaking, and you know it's not good when Ragabi is like, oh shit. Perhaps this was put in the show just to add a dangerous element to this procedure, or it could foreshadow Mark experiencing the same things that happened to Petey. By the end of questioning, it appears Mark has forgotten all of his outie's memories, which leaves us with several questions going forward. Is Ragabi simply not finished the process? Will Mark experience the severed floor as his outie? Or is this signaling that next episode will be a flashback where we see Mark's first day at Lumen? Meanwhile, Mark's Innie has his own bizarre adventure as he and Helly continue their search for Miss Casey. They've even made these missing persons posters. The Innies have devised a plan. Mark and Helly will venture to the GOAT department, Irv to optics and design, and Dylan is supposed to see if he can find anyone near the new break room. And we'll get to see why Dylan seems to be sabotaging the Innies in a bit. In my last video, we talked about Helly not being Helly at all. This is actually Helena Egan posing as her to infiltrate the Innies. And this awkward non-kiss scene has got to be one of the biggest clues that support this theory. Helly is brash, confident, and wouldn't bat an eyelash to take the initiative and kiss Mark. That's what we saw at the end of Season 1. This Helly is shy, submissive, and awkward. They make their way to the GOAT room from Season 1, leading them to a poop-filled hallway that opens into a large indoor grassy knoll, one that is eerily similar from what we see in the intro credits. Here we'll meet Gwendolyn Christie's unnamed character, who calls this place Mammalians Nurturable. For now, I'm just gonna call it the GOAT department. Her first line is, "Are you going to kill me?" And this isn't the first time we've seen this defensiveness when it comes to other departments. When Dylan meets Bert from optics and design, he also thinks he's come to kill them, stemming from an old story that O&D once massacred the MDR department. We've seen a painting of this titled The Grim Barbarity of Optics and Design in episode 105. But look what Dylan stumbles upon later in that episode when he's in O&D. that same painting, but now it's titled The Macro Data Refinement Calamity, and it depicts MDR killing O&D. Their badge colors have been reversed. It seems as though whoever created these paintings wants to sow distrust between the departments, because if the departments distrust each other, they're easier to control. They're not going to unify. And I imagine this is what's happening in the goat department.
Are you here to kill me?
At first, I thought the workers here might not be severed. However, this proves to be untrue when one of the goatmen divulges he met with Miss Casey, who said his Audi loved stargazing. Imagine being an Audi of one of these guys and coming home smelling like goat shit every day. It turns out Miss Casey would do their wellness sessions in the husbandry tanks, and all they really know about...
Or they are all homeless, and when they go out, they just live on the streets and don't even notice that they have like an additional smell because they don't shower for years.
her is that she's retired. So nothing too revelatory here except for this weird request that they see Mark and Helly's bellies. They are looking to see if they have pouches like a marsupial. And I think this leads into the very purpose of why there is a goat department in the first place. First, we must recognize that goat imagery is closely tied to Lumen's founder, Keir Egan. In the Taming of the Four Tempers painting, we get to see a goat represented as one of these tempers, with many believing it to represent malice. A goat dancer is seen during Dylan's waffle party, and goat imagery has been littered in the background even here in this episode. Various cultures, religions, and mythologies attribute several meanings to the goat, anything from sacrifice, rebellion, evil, and the occult. There's also a theory out there that Severance is heavily inspired by the 1894 horror fantasy novella The Great God Pan, and there are many parallels, including the God Pan, who is the body of a goat, Pan's Labyrinth, like the hallways being a sort of maze, a doctor who performs brain surgery so that his patient can see another world, and one of the main characters being named Helen. But I have to imagine there's a real practical need for these goats, and with Lumen having its roots in the pharmaceutical industry, these goats may be used as test subjects for their various medical experiments. The goat department asking to see if Mark and Helly had pouches.
I don't think so. Why would they need this on the severed floor? Like, the whole severed floor, its purpose is creating this new civilization of people who worship Keir. Like, if you think about it, MDR, what they are doing something that is completely irrelevant on the outside world. Also, the O&D, they are creating imagery that is relevant only to, you know, the most loyal, dedicated employees of Lumen, and also to the severed people. So whatever they are doing with the goats has to be related to severed people. Also, could be wrong, but it sounds a little bit more logical to me than just testing drugs.
Is an ominous detail that suggests experiments may have been tested on humans. If Lumen's goal is to control its workers, the goat is a good test subject as they're naturally more...
Actually, I was not remembering the moment with, you know, like people are having pouches on their stomach, but we have seen great videos today with people reminding us about the pouches on the stomach, so this is why they were asking this. This is not some kind of a human experiment situation here.
More rebellious than, say, sheep. Goats have also been used in the past as clones, so there's a lot of messed up stuff Lumen could be...
Also, the actors said already a couple of times, no clones. And I don't think this is there's going to be just one Spider-Man in the third Spider-Man situation when they were like lying their asses off to, you know, to keep the secret. I think they actually mean that because, like, if they don't want to debunk some kind of theory, they can just avoid it because there's enough theories there. So to keep each and one of them still relevant. But if they are debunking it, they're probably like letting us know, no clones. There's not going to be anything related to cloning in this company.
Doing with these animals. Back at MDR, Dylan is treated to the best perk of all, a chance to meet his Audi's wife. Dylan's apprehension at helping the other innies boils down to his desire to learn more about his Audi's life. In season 1, he got that glimpse of his son, and now Milchek's been enticing him with the possibility of learning more if he plays ball, and Dylan doesn't want to do anything to screw this up. Well, his loyalty pays off when Miss Huang invites him to the security room, which has been renovated into that Audi family visitation suite Milchek showed him last episode. His good behavior has earned him 18 minutes with Gretchen, who we heard for the first time last episode when Dylan fumbled his job at the door factory. Notice how Gretchen wears purple here. Colors have specific meanings in Severance, with red tending to symbolize the outside world and blue the inside. Purple is created when red and blue are mixed together, so seeing Gretchen is a literal clash of the outside and inside worlds. Gretchen offers us some insight into Dylan's Audi, who's had trouble in the past finding his way. This is in contrast to Dylan's innie, who's great at his job and the complete opposite of a fuck-up. Gretchen's allowed to show him a picture of their family, including their 3 children, Jim, Ruth, and Merrick. Listening carefully to this conversation is Miss Huang, as Gretchen is not allowed to divulge any sensitive information, like how she accidentally let it slip that Milchek's first name is Seth, something the innies do not know. But the main purpose of this scene is quite manipulative. By telling Dylan there's a whole family counting on him, he'll be less likely to team up with the innies in their quest for answers. In fact, the show may be setting him up for a big betrayal later on. In the outside world, I get the feeling Gretchen does most of the heavy lifting, both in regards to the family and their relationship, as Dylan lazily sits on the couch reading the latest issue.
Definitely. When Innie Dylan asked her, like, am I a fuck up? Is he a fuck up? She like was, you know, she was hiding her gaze. She was like, she felt ashamed. Like, she didn't want to say this about her husband, which she obviously loved, but she's not a good liar. So she just, you know, hid her eyes, and yeah, you can understand he is a fuck up.
Of midlife driver, she reminds him about one of their kids taking medication for their ear and the fact it's their turn to make cookies for Jim's class. Even this simple task of making store-bought cookies, she has to describe to him. And is it just me, or is that a tear coming down his face? A few seconds later, it's missing. Then there's the fact that she doesn't bring up that she went to see his innie today, something you'd think would be the main topic of conversation between these two. And did any of you pick up that in the innie scene she says I love you when she's about to leave, but doesn't say it to his outie? If Gretchen and Dylan continue to meet, I foresee them sparking a romance. Innie Dylan is the man Gretchen wants outie Dylan to be, and the moral dilemmas this would cause would make for great television. For example, would it be considered cheating? We'll find out.
By the way, we had the creators talking about this, the whole sexual revolution, and like people are being still like half children in their mind, but still having like a grown-up body, and with a grown-up body you have certain desires, and you don't have any let out to those desires when you're an innie. Like you can go out obviously and have some intimate relationship, but this is your outie. Okay, so your body maybe gets what it wants, but your physical desires don't really get here anything. So Lumen is gonna basically try to give the innies some kind of a let out there, like the waffle party, but maybe a little more normal than this crazy shit. So probably we're gonna see something between Haley and Mark, but maybe we're actually gonna see something between Dylan and his outie wife, which is gonna be even more cheating. Or not cheating, by the way. I should check how the poll turned out. And thank you so much for the super chat from Nebulos Snives. Thank for the videos and engagement with the community. This is exactly one of the reasons why I am showing my face. Like, I'm obviously thinking that I'm the most handsome person of. I'm kidding, of course. Somebody will take it seriously. No, but the reason I'm putting my face on is because I want to be able to actually create a community, because it's harder to do it with a voice. Like when you see a person and you see if he's real or not, if he's reading something or if he's talking to you from the bottom of his heart, it's something that it's almost impossible to fake. Like you have to be one of the greatest actors in the world to fake sincerity. So this is why I'm doing this, and maybe it will cost some views or some subscribers, but I think the ones that I'm gonna gain are gonna be more valuable to me as creator. Thank you.
She works nights and Dylan days, so that's got to be stressful on their relationship as well. Some other interesting details I noticed were the little Kier doll, Milchek's pineapple gift basket on the table, and Gretchen's uniform. It's hard to tell, but it looks like she could be some sort of police officer or forest ranger. Dylan responding to her saying, "Copy that," suggests she may work with radios. I'd say the most surreal storyline this episode has to be Seth Milchek, whose devotion and hard work for the board sees him treated to a series of reimagined paintings in which Kier Egan is depicted as a black man. We've seen a lot of these paintings before, like the youthful convalescence of Kier, and Kier invites you to drink of his water. Race has not really been discussed in Severance. However, in the episode 1 podcast, Ben Stiller, Adam Scott, and Tremel Tillman, the actor who portrays Seth Milchek, discuss what being a black man at Lumen must be like.
And the question I asked is, does he know he's black? So what does it mean to be in a world that you are not represented in? And how does Milchek buy into that?
Episode 3 scratches the surface of this question, but as we'll see, Milchek stashes these paintings away. He does not want to see the blue eyes of this fake black Kier. And this is where we can ask ourselves, why? Is it a denial of his own identity? Is it a repudiation? What is clearly a tone-deaf appeal by Lumen to make him feel welcome? Learning more about Milchek and what makes him tick is something I hope we learn more about in episodes to come. I also want to briefly discuss what he was doing on his computer terminal. Here is the management control panel showing 4 personal ID listings. As far as I know, none of these numbers match up with the ID numbers of our 4 innies. But
we just talked about it. Maybe I'm gonna spend some time on it right now. Yeah, I'm not gonna go through. This is my Telegram. This is my Russian Telegram. Let's see where I've seen this imagery. Somebody sent it to me today. I have pies here, which is awesome. Where's the fucking image? Yeah, here we go. This is somebody sent it to me. Like, you remember, this is the scene. This is the scene from the end of the season 1. So you can see here, let's say Haley R. Like we see 2938 1009 827 112954. And on this shot, 112954 1019 827. So this is Haley. This is Mark. This is Irving. This is Dylan. So it does match, and this guy, I'm not going to be able to translate it to English. Don't even ask. It's impossible. Awesome catch. And this is why I love it being a community and not just me showing to you how amazing I am with finding those small details, because I'm obviously never going to find all of the details, but when we are together, the picture becomes clearer, way better. Anyway, let's check there. Okay, so yeah, this is already, like, we can see something more interesting here. 146 votes and something like, let's say, how many people watch? 137. So more people already voted and left the chat. So yeah, like 56%, shame on you. No, I'm kidding, of course, whatever you want. Like 56 people think this is not cheating when you actually fall in love with your spouse's innie, even though it's a different person that just looks the same and maybe have some similar traits. And 44% like, yeah, maybe I should start doing some dating apps. What do you think, guys? Okay, we're gonna end this poll and we're gonna come back to the video. Sorry.
Stings. As far as I know, none of these numbers match up with the ID numbers of our 4 innies. But on the next screen, we'll see that this is some sort of surveillance system with the phrase executive drawer system. Whatever this is, it looks like Milchek has an eye on our innies and perhaps even our outies. This episode also gives us our greatest insight into Natalie Kalin. She, like Milchek, was gifted those Kier paint.
I had another donation here, another 20 bucks. Oh my god, thank you for your thoughtful and unique reviews, Nikki. Thank you so much. Like, the amounts are insane. Like, I was hoping for donations. I'm not gonna lie about it, but I was hoping for like $2, $5. I was thinking maybe like people are gonna be generous enough, but you guys are like sending me 10 bucks, 20 bucks. I mean, I hope I deserve this. I really hope I deserve this, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to like not to disappoint you. Thank you so much. I feel humbled. Thank you.
Paintings, but did any of you notice that when she's talking to him, her lip quivers? It looks like she's trying to restrain herself from something truly terrifying. Natalie is also interesting because...
Not terrifying. She probably knows what Milchek is feeling in this moment, because this shit was fucking racist, and like getting this kind of an image of a black face Keir Hagan with blue eyes, he obviously made him as a person of color feel like shit in this situation and maybe even angry, and she probably felt the same, and she cannot say to him anything because she feels like the board is listening. I cannot really do something against the board because then I'm gonna be punished for it, maybe even fired. So this is why she felt like that. She knew the situation is fucked up. That was the whole situation here. Anyway,
because she's the only one we know of who has actually heard the board. She's assigned to recruit Rickon in creating a version of his book that would be suitable for the innies. Lumen knows that the innies found inspiration from his book, so if they're given a revised version in which Lumen can control the narrative, it could help maintain their control. This all seems to be in an effort to get MDR in line so it can complete its work on Cold Harbor. Then there's Irv, who takes a bit of a back seat this episode, but one that gives us some more clues about the...
Another 20 bucks. Another 20 bucks. Thank you so much, Margaret Petit. Thanks for organizing and hosting this. Thank you. I have no words. Thank you so much.
Mysterious elevator. Irv's recreated the image of his Audie's paintings, claiming his Audie likely saw this elevator in his dreams, but it still doesn't answer the question. If his Audie has never seen it, nor his innie, how is he having visions of it? His journey takes him back to O&D, where we meet Bert's old coworker, Felicia. Upon showing him his drawing of the elevator, she instantly recognizes it. She calls this the exports hall, and they used to send their shipments there, but now Lumen sends a guy to do it. Milchek, perhaps? The word exports suggests a commodity that is then sold abroad. We know O&D has an army of 3D printers where they print everything from watering cans to hatchets. Could these be sent via this elevator to Lumen branches around the globe? But why?
Miss Moonlight became a member today on the channel, and she's also donating $4. Thank you. Also, thank you. Let's watch this video until the end. We need to like stay focused on the messages because Think's story is freaking great. Like really, really great. He's always catching things that I didn't notice. I'm stopping here to like fix some of the things. But it's definitely not from the place of disrespect or something like this. I like my hats off to this guy. He's doing an incredible job. And the way he manages to basically, like fill everything, all of his ideas and all of the information in just 20 minutes. The editing style is also very pleasant to the eye. Like it's not really flashy. He's not doing over the top editing, but he's always emphasizing his ideas through editing. Like, very, very good job.
Then is Miss Casey sent there? Where is she going? Is she even still at this Lumen branch? With MDR working on a file that is connected with her, I doubt she's gone far. The main theory is that this elevator leads to a testing.
Miss Casey was sent to the clean slate. she was sent to this whole, clean slate procedure. And she's been like probably many times. Like, we had this conversation between Mark and Gemma in season 1, and she told him, like, I don't remember how much, but she told him, I've been alive for like 4 days or 5 days or like 12 days or maybe 2 months or something like this. But she was killed in the car accident 2 years ago. So we can assume safely that she was in Lumen for those 2 years. So she was probably being rebooted many times. Maybe she even switched like places, different branches or something like this. I don't know, but it's probably the clean slate operation. Thank you so much, Paul, for becoming, Pax Banter, for becoming a motivator. No Geekati, look, this is Pax Banter, thank you for being a motivator. And I have here somebody writing, X-Spread, gonna have loyal fans after this group chat, loyal like Lumen workers. I really hope not. Okay, I don't want anybody to be loyal to me. I hope you guys are gonna be enjoying my videos, and if I'm gonna do shitty content, and if I'm gonna do bad videos, I hope you're gonna be like a good friends to me, and you're gonna tell me, Igor, you're fucking up and you should better step up your game, because we are used to get a better content from you. Well, like a good friend, like a friend will always tell you what you want to hear. Like a good friend will tell you, dude, you're fucking this up and you should better wake up. So this kind of a loyalty, this is what I expect from the people that watching my channel. So yeah, definitely not loyal like Lumen. I don't want people say praise Geekademy every time they watch my videos. Or maybe I do. I don't know.
Floor, a place where the severed are sent for procedures or retirement. Last episode, when Irv left a message to an unknown person on this payphone, he says he thinks his innie got the message, and this message is likely the export's hallway. Maybe it's a way for them to get out. That's why he kept painting this over and over again while drinking coffee and blasting loud music. He wanted his innie to fall asleep at work so that he'd dream about the black hallway, which we saw manifest in this black goo. Now we're about to get into our trailer sleuthing section, where we go over this season's trailer.
I'm gonna stop it here, because I don't know if you guys want to see it. Like, I don't really care about the trailer. I have seen the trailers, but I know some of my viewers don't watch the trailers. They don't want to get any spoilers at all. So we're gonna stop here, and like, there is nothing for me to add here. Like, there is a reason you have the 734,000 subscriber here. This guy is awesome. Editing content, yeah, he misses sometimes, but who doesn't? Like, I know I miss a lot when I'm doing my videos. This is a part of the process, and the video is entertaining, and I'm pretty sure, even without checking other big channels with 1 million subscribers and, like 200 and 300,000 subscribers, I'm 100% sure, even before I'm seeing them, like 95% of the video is going to be just a recap done in entertaining way with a soothing voice. This is what's going to be there. So, okay, guys, we are streaming for 2 hours straight. It's midnight at my place. Praise Kier, Riken, and Geekanomy. Igor, you need some ginger and turmeric tea. Yeah, I'm going to do this after the stream. Like, chamomile is my potion. I know I sound like like an alpha male right now, but chamomile tea is the shit. Like, a couple of years ago, I had this situation in my life, like when I was getting sick, like a problem with my stomach. I couldn't eat shit. I was eating white rice. I was depressed as hell because of that, because like, you don't see that on me because I'm skinny as fuck, but I love eating, and I love eating good food. So I was pretty depressed, and what helped me is the Wheel of Time audiobook and a lot of chamomile tea to keep my nerves calm. Of course, my family and my amazing girlfriend who was taking care of me. But like, I had those safe haven places, like where I would escape from the bad thoughts. And this is the Wheel of Time audiobook. And this is, with a cup of chamomile tea. Yeah. I'm a bad guy. I'm the tough guy. I'm going to open a podcast of, the toughest alpha guys. Sometimes they jump on my feed and I'm like, what the hell is going on with people? Anyway, are we watching something else, or are you tired? Or are we going to watch another video? Like, I would love to see someone smaller than Think Story or New Rock Stars. Pete Peppers. Yeah, we have seen his video. A cool guy. Oh my God, yes. Praise chamomile. Okay, girl, get some rest. I was not even implying that I want to get some rest, but maybe, you know, like 2 hours can be a good start. Or maybe we should watch, you know what? Let's watch another video, one more. So it's gonna be a very good one, hopefully. So come on, chat, let's give us some ideas, give me names. Let's say, okay, let's do again, you know, Severance, Season 2, Episode 3. Okay, some of the creators. Okay, let's decide. Who are we gonna see? The New Rockstars, ScreenCrush, The Break Room. Okay, who's The Break Room? 12 minutes. What is... I was not watching that. Why is it showing me that I watched this video? And it's 53. I definitely didn't watch 53 minutes of this video. Okay, weird. Yeah, but we're not gonna watch 1 hour video right now. Pete Peppers we have seen. Brain Pilot. Okay, who are we watching? Let's see in the chat. I mean, I would love to watch Julie B Deep Dive's video, but there is no... Or did we see Julie B Deep Dive? Did she do episode 3? Gem and Loomis, episode 2, 2 days ago. Julie, we've spoken a couple of times in Discord. I'm feeling like shit right now because like both Philosophy PM and both Julie Deep Dive invited me to come to the live stream. But they're like, first of all, like I have a kid, first of all, and the second of all, like the time difference is very big. And I kind of promised I would come, and I still didn't come to their live stream, so I should definitely come to their live streams. So in case you're watching this video, please forgive me, and hopefully I will find time for it. Anyway, she didn't do a video, so what are we watching? The last video for today. It's gotta be something good. It's gotta be good. ScreenCrush? I don't think I ever seen ScreenCrush. Like, I know the channel. I've seen them on YouTube. Let's check the ScreenCrush. Like, I know the New Rockstars. Like, I don't. Maybe I'm gonna get some hate for it, but I'm not a fan. I don't know. Like, sometimes you just don't like something, and it's okay if you can not like things that are absolutely great. And since those guys, they have like, I don't
Welcome
know,
back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric
4 million subscribers that definitely don't need me to like them. But you know, like I don't like being negative about something, but I also don't want to be dishonest. So let's check the ScreenCrush. Okay, maybe it's something nice. Okay.
Two selves become one. We'll also talk about what the hell the export hall is and what these
1.7 million subscribers. Cool. Let's
numbers on Milchek's computer screen mean. I also want to get into how this episode gives us even more clues.
I already like that this guy is showing himself and not like you know, like only his voice or something like this. It's already makes me like the channel more.
About the work happening at Lumen and how it is all part of their mission to resurrect the devil below, Kier. And hey, speaking of, be sure to check out our Praise Kier sticky note shirt up on the merch store right now, ScreenCrushmerch.com. So,
can you do that, by the way? Like, if I'm gonna do merch that says whatever, I was severed or some shit like that, it doesn't fall in the copyright section. Like, I'm not gonna be sued for that. Or maybe he, you know, with 1.7 million subscribers just has some kind of an, I don't know, some kind of a deal with Apple TV and he's able to do that. Anyway, just a question, because like I was approached by this company that they are making like toys, and I wanted to make toys that I can promote on my channel. They're just like a new company, so they're looking like somebody like me who's going to be interested, like a big channel, so I'm not going to be interested in a new company. But then we thought like we cannot make something related to Severance or to From or anything else because it's going to be copyrighted. It's illegal. Anyway, like if somebody knows about this, like can I do shirts that have like, I don't know, like praise gear or something like this, let me know.
First, I'm going to talk about goats.
Okay, me and Helly will find the goat man.
Back in season 1, we saw Helly and Mark stumble across a room on the severed floor where we saw a man feeding baby goats and exclaiming,
You can't take them yet, they're not ready.
And that has pretty much been on my mind ever since seeing that episode for the first time like 3 years ago. I mean, what the is going on with the goats? Are they connected to the cloning theories? Are they symbolic of like a satanic type cult, like the cult of Kier? Are they connected to a sacrificial type ceremony involving goat blood, keep an elite oligarch like Kier alive? I want answers. And this episode finally took us back to that goat room, and while it didn't come even remotely close to answering all of our questions, it did reveal quite a bit. So Mark says in the office that they need to find the goat man and possible goat people. Now, the goat man is of course in reference to this guy who we saw feeding the goats, but goat people? Well, we've seen a goat person in this painting from season 1 where we saw a godlike Kier taming the 4 tempers. Remember, the 4 tempers are woe, frolic, dread, and malice. We can see these tempers on the MDR screens as well. Now, in this painting where Kier is taming the 4 tempers, the goat man represents malice. And on the Severance wiki, they actually refer to him as a ram, but hey, you know, they're all Bovidae, so I'm just gonna call him the goat man. Now, we also saw the goat man depicted during the waffle party for Dylan back in season 1, along with the other 3 tempers that are depicted in this painting. Now, we should also mention that there has been a lot of Greek.
Once again, there's a weird distinction, like the 3 tempers are being represented as human, and then the 4th temper is represented by a goat, and also on the waffle party, the 3 tempers, the first 3 tempers are female, and then the goat is the male. Like they always differentiate between those. I don't know why, but it kind of seems important.
Greek mythology imagery in this show, most recently the line about Persephone.
What's my name?
Persephone.
And how in Greek mythology, she spent half her life in the underworld just like a severed employee, since half their life down on the severed floor. So with all of these Greek mythology references, we can't talk.
And she also spent half of her life in hell, literally hell, because Hades was the ruler of hell. And if you remember episode 1, season 1, how is it called? Welcome to hell.
About the goat people without mentioning Pan, the god of chaos and fertility. Pan was essentially a half man, half goat type god, and fertility would actually have a connection to the resurrection of Kier and like this little baby Kier that we saw in the new intro for this series. Now, in the book of the great god Pan by Arthur Machen, he has an evil daughter who is actually named Helen, which of course could be a direct tie to Helena. So with the goat or the ram or whatever being malice, we have to remember that malice is defined by Kier as the intention to do evil. This connection between goats and evil ties back of course to goats having a connection to satanic, imagery and rituals, which ties to the cult of Kier, and the severed floor's connection to the 9 circles of hell that we've discussed in previous breakdowns. Now, it has been widely theorized that out of the 4 refiners, Helly represents malice, which would be more accurately applied to her outie self, Helena. And look, this is a pretty surface level observation, but she does have the word hell in her name, and that all of course would connect back to the Pan, Helen, goat person stuff that we just discussed. Now, while we as the viewer may view Helena as the one committing evil, we have to remember that this is a temper defined by Kier, and the actions of Heliar against Lumen could be viewed as evil or malicious in the eyes of Kier. Now, another connection to Greek mythology and the name Helen is in the Iliad, where we had the character of Helen who actually caused essentially the Trojan War. And in this season, I've said that I am fully convinced that Heliar has not returned, and that this is actually Helena Egan pretending to be Heliar, and she's essentially serving as a Trojan horse, sneaking her way into the severed floor amongst the other severed employees and pretending to be an ally when in reality she's there to f it up. So it was also in this episode that it became pretty clear to me that Irving also knows that something is up with Helly, and he suspects that she is not who she says she is, to which I say, yeah. I don't know how Irving is the only one picking up on this. I mean, there are so many moments in this episode alone that to me, it's just clear. It's clear as day that this is the character of Helena and not Heliar. And that reminds me, can we give a hand to these actors who are essentially being tasked with playing 2 completely different roles and tackling the complexities of playing 2 different characters who are supposed to occupy the same body? I've always thought
that's exactly what I'm saying. What I mean when I'm saying like the level of acting and the level of cast on this TV show is absolutely amazing. Like we are used to praise, like all of the acting scenes, like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street when he's like laying on the floor and like drooling all over them himself, like over the top acting, which obviously require a lot from you as an actor to be, to go there to this zone. But I appreciate a lot more, the subtle nuances in acting, like a small smile, like a small movement of eyebrows that basically convey sometimes a lot of emotions. This is something that happens a lot in this TV show.
That Helly, especially portrayed by Britt Lauer, portrayed her Innie and Outie so differently, down to the tiny little nuances, like how she carries the weight of her eyes between the 2 characters. Helly has like this more wide-eyed look, while Helena is more like menacing. It's so clear to me that that's Helena, but we shall see. But Irving, I think you're onto something. And I guess it actually would make sense that Irving is the only one who's picking up on the fact that Helly's acting a little weird. I mean, Dylan is distracted with the temptations that Milchek is offering him as like secret perks, and Mark is so caught up in his mission to find Miss Casey and his own infatuation with Helly from a lustful standpoint that they're both blind to the stranger that's looking right right back at them. It's only Irving who is seemingly severed from his outside distractions, and because of that, he is able to see Helly for who she is, or Helena, I should say. Only Irving has reached a point of having nothing else to lose and, really just wanting to burn this place to the ground. Irving is fed up, and that's allowing him to see things clearer than ever before, which is such a great parallel to his character in the first season, where he was like the biggest Kier bootlicker there was.
It's okay if you cry.
Now, another piece of evidence that Irving and myself are right about Helly is this little hint on her computer monitor back in episode 1 of this season. Her screen actually read Santa Mira, the location in which the film Invasion of the Body Snatchers takes place. Helena is a body snatcher, confirmed.
Didn't know this. Okay, that's an interesting hint. Another argument for her being actually Helena. Okay, I really like this channel. I like this good dude. He's charismatic. He's dropping the F-bomb. I kind of wish he would not censor it, but maybe it's better, for the big views or something like this. I don't feel like he's reading, even though he's most likely reading, the text in front of his eyes. But the way he reads, it feels like he's talking to me. Like, this is absolutely an amazing channel, and I can see why it has 1.7 million subscribers.
Confirmed. Now, speaking of missed Easter eggs and praising the show's attention to detail, I should also mention how these two elevator sequences from episode 1 and 2 of the second season, they are actually perfectly synced up if you play them parallel to one another, so really nice touch. So anyway, this next scene of Helly and Mark in the hallway, having this awkward but simultaneously super sweet, silent, smiley gaze, I loved it until I remembered that this isn't Helly. And you can actually see that Mark briefly gets a whiff of something being off about Helly, but she then immediately takes advantage of the fact that he's infatuated with her, and the two basically...
No, I don't agree. I think he's just, once again, this guy is 2 years old. He never kissed a girl. Do you remember when the first time you kissed a girl, how you felt inside? It was like one of the scariest things that you can do. I mean, what if she's gonna turn away? Like, even if you see and you're like 100% confident that she wants to be kissed right now, there's a lot of doubt in you, especially when it's the first time. And even though they had a kiss already, they shared a kiss, but he was not an initiator of this kiss. So right now he's just doubtful, like he's scared, he's, being shy, and he doesn't understand. Is this the moment he wants to kiss her, but he's just being, he's being a 2-year-old guy in a body of a 40-year-old. This is what happens here.
One another. Now, not only is it screwed up that Helena is essentially manipulating and taking advantage of the fact that Mark likes her, but what's even creepier is that I got the impression that her look at him might actually be genuine. Like, she's actually having feelings for Mark. In the previous episode, when Helena is studying her and Mark...
I think it's more she wants to feel something for him. Like, when I was a teenager, I had those moments, like you would read a book and there's like a girl character, then the main hero would fall in love in her, and I would fall in love with the hero in the girl. It usually would pass after a couple of days, but in the moment you kind of feel this emotion, and this is probably what Helena feels like when she's seen this video. You remember this from episode 2, when she looked at the kiss, she was completely mesmerized, like in this pure emotion, like in this very romantic moment, like she's jumping out of the elevator to kiss the guy that she likes in case she's not gonna see him again. I mean, it doesn't get more romantic than that. She's obviously being drawn to that because she didn't experience anything like it. We've seen how cold-harbored she is, pun intended. And she probably used to, to run over guys and girls and everybody in her life. And also, like, this is like maybe an unfortunate truth about our reality. Like, women like that are very hard to be approached by men. So maybe she didn't have anything romantic in her life. And even if she's married, she probably, like married to some corporate douche or something like this.
Mark's interactions from the season 1 finale, she seems happy and like she wishes that was her. I think that Helly might actually be getting feelings for Mark, and actually she's kind of like envious of Helliar because Helliar is such a rebel, while Helena, she's just following in her family footsteps and doing exactly what her father wants. So I wouldn't be surprised if Helena actually has some kind of turn and ends up helping the gang, like take down Lumen and buck the system. Next we get the return of Natalie in her classic role as the middleman for communication with the board. Now in this scene, she's actually serving as the middleman between the board and Milchek, mirroring this scene from season 1 when she was serving the same role as a middleman for Cobell and the board. So Natalie presents Milchek with a gift from the board featuring himself as Kier.
Please accept from the board these inclusively recanonicalized paintings intended to help you see yourself in Kier.
Now this once again reemphasizes the deification of Kier. Man is meant to see themselves in God and God in themselves. Judeo-Christian scripture refers to this as the image of God, and here we are seeing literal images meant to show Milchek himself in the image of Kier, his God. And man, there is a lot of creepy behind these pictures. First off, there's just something like racial going on. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know what it is, but there's something just demeaning about changing a black man's eyes to the color blue and telling him that this is a better version of himself. This faint hint of like race-based, eugenic-based purism, it just gives these like slight hints of...
No, luckily I have black friends, like people of color that I can consider as friends. And I also probably as a white guy was not picking up most of the hints here in this scene. But luckily I spoke to some people that basically told me, man, this shit was fucking racist. Like, this is horrible. Like, as a black man seeing something like this is make your blood boil in this situation. So yeah, there are no subtle hits here. And I just wanted to add something like what he was saying here.
It's the deification of Kier. Man is meant to see themselves.
Yeah, like the whole being shown yourself in an image of God. I mean, like, take Christianity. Like, if you want to see yourself as Jesus on a cross, like, my opinion that maybe you need some help, and I'm putting it lightly. Like, if I would see myself being like cosplaying Jesus on a cross, I would think this is going to be offensive not only to me, but also to Christians.
God and God in themselves. Judeo-Christian scripture refers to this as the image of God. And here we are seeing literal images meant to show Milchek himself in the image of Kier, his God. And man, there is a lot of creepy behind these pictures. First off, there's just something like racial going on. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know what it is, but there's something just demeaning about changing a black man's eyes to the color blue and telling him that this is a better version of himself. This faint hint of like race-based, eugenic-based purism, it just gives these like slight hints of the evil history of Lumen and their ties to slavery and the Civil War. It's really creepy.
Exactly,
and these
red
paintings aren't the only connection to eugenics that Lumen has. The project that Mark is working on, Cold Harbor, could be tied to Cold Springs Harbor, the eugenics center for America in the 1920s and 1930s, even being labeled the eugenics capital of the world. There's also the AI of it all. I don't think any of these paintings are actually painted in universe. Now, these may very well be painted by actual artists for the show, but in universe, I think these are totally a product of some type of like AI imaging technology that Lumen has developed. Images that are specifically designed and hung throughout Lumen to elicit certain emotional responses out of its employees, which ties directly into the emotion-based work of MDR and the Four Tempers. So back to the board, a big question anytime the board is present is who the hell are they? We've heard them speak one time in this scene from season 1.
Is the board even there?
Yes.
Now, I think the board isn't actually...
You heard this on my review too, like the yes is very weak. It's like somebody is laying on their deathbed and they're connected to all of those, computer thingies and the medical equipment, and they're trying to stay alive. Like, it doesn't feel like somebody, like, you can hear to my voice and it's midnight at my place and I'm kind of tired, but I'm like 5 times more energetic than this yes. So it kind of makes me think, yeah, this is some kind of a Kier Agan there being kept alive, or maybe, I don't know, somebody else waiting for their next revolving. So anyway,
a board, I don't think it's multiple people. I think it is one person, and I think that person is Kier Egan. But it's also possible that the board could consist of not only Kier, but all of the other Lumen CEOs that are supposedly dead. And I can't put a finger.
Yeah, I like this guy. I like the way he thinks. I don't know why, but I like the way he thinks. It's almost as we're kind of similar in this situation, and this is why I like him.
Anyway, but there's just something evil and eerie when the board is present. I mean, even in the eyes of Natalie here, we can see what I can only describe as fear behind her eyes and smile. And this was yet another scene in this episode with a long, awkward stare and smile.
Congratulations, Seth.
So back with Mark and Helly and their exploration of the goat room, we see them enter this tiny baby goat hallway that is essentially a miniature version of the severed floor hallways. And watching Mark and Helly crawl through this hallway made them look gigantic, especially after having seen them walk these same hallways so many times throughout the series. Seeing them crawl through this miniature hall brilliantly represents how the walls are closing in on Lumen and what they're hiding, and how Mark is getting closer and closer to uncovering their secrets. And his journey down this compressed hallway represents how Mark is getting closer and closer to the truth. And a step toward that truth lies behind whatever the hell is going on with the goat people. So once they get into this giant room with a grassy hill under fluorescent lights, I don't know why, but I just felt drained. It honestly reminded me of that OG Windows XP grassy field wallpaper that used to be...
You know where they filmed it, right? They filmed it on the golf course. I put this on my review. They basically closed a piece of a golf course and they built the lumen walls around it. That's how they filmed it.
Found in every fluorescently lit office building in the world. I mean, this show is a commentary on the work-life balance and how some people feel like they are trapped in an internal purgatory when...
I'm sorry for stopping it too much, but I think it's a little bit more than that. Like, I hate Severance being reducted to just one idea. Like, it's a critique on capitalism or some shit like that. It's a work-life balance. I think it's like that, and even many more. And this is why it's a great TV show.
They're at their office job. They hate their job so much that they'd be willing to sever their mind not to actually have to experience the job. And I bet you there are people out there who actually associate that desktop wallpaper with negative emotions because it reminds them of their job. There's just something artificially creepy about putting these beautiful landscapes as desktop wallpapers to help distract from the fact that you are stuck in an office building, and this room with the goats is kind of a three-dimensional representation of that same feeling. And it all comes back to the word artificial. I think a lot of what Lumen is up to, whether it be with the cloning or AI or consciousness, I think they are trying to perfect some type of artificial consciousness and artificial intelligence. I think that is what this season is leading toward. So anyway, as Helly and Mark walk through these fields, we see Homeboy here wearing a black goat head. Now, this is actually a Mark or a Mark. I think I'm saying that right. You can tell based on the spiral horns that that's what kind of goat it is. Now, not to get right back into all the satanic imagery stuff, but dude, a big black goat with those scary horns. I mean, have you seen The Witch? This is totally representative of the devil. And as I've said before, I think the devil of this story is Kier. And these goats could resemble that of the sacrificial lamb essentially representing a sacrifice for the greater good. And in this case, a sacrifice to Kier, and the flourishing of Lumen would be that greater good. The severed employees are literally sacrificing and serving Kier. So then we meet Captain Phasma herself, Gwendolyn Christie. You'll recognize her, of course, from other great shows.
This is a scene. I really like this guy, but that was a scene. You cannot reference it to this horrible Star Wars movie. This is Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, the most badass warrior in the whole TV show.
Like Game of Thrones, and this brief scene in Star Wars Episode 8 where we could see her face through the cracked helmet. And amongst the goat people, we can also see the same guy from last season who was feeding those baby goats. Next, we jump over to optics and design, where we see the return of Felicia, Bert's co-worker, and we get to see her and Irving reconnect and bond over their mutual mourning of Bert. And here in the background, when Irving walks into the O&D office, we can see what might actually be Bert's old blue lab coat hanging on this rack. We can also see this painting of who I presume is a young Kier Egan in military attire. This painting first appeared in the Season 1 episode, The UUR. We also got the return of this painting from Season 1, The Courtship of Kier, which we actually saw Bert and Irving admiring in the hallway back in Season 1, and that's why we see Irving smiling when he looks upon this painting in this episode. Now, this painting features Kier with his wife working in an ether factory, ether being something that is used to put people to sleep for operations such as the Severance procedure. Now, I also love how in this episode we saw that Irving is an artist, just like his Audi self, having drawn Bert, as well as the testing floor elevator, just like his Audi would paint on the outside. And what's interesting is that his Audi self has dormant memories about having seen this elevator, but any Irving really only knows about it from his Audi's paintings, which he saw in the Season 1 finale. I think it's also safe to assume that Irving totally drew this picture of Miss Casey. So when Felicia sees the drawings of the elevator, she says,
How do you know about the exports hall?
So we know that the elevator leads down to the testing floor, but with
That's not an assumption. It was told in the TV show that he was the one to draw Miss Casey.
Felicia calling it the exports hall, I'm wondering if optics and design has actually sent paintings and whatnot down to exports, and that would be them exporting the painting elsewhere. I think that maybe they're exporting paintings and various other things down to the testing floor so they can test whether or not these paintings and other things are eliciting the desired emotions out of their severed employees. So then we jump back over to Dylan, where we see him escorted to the security office to meet his Audi's wife, as Milchek promised. The actress playing his wife may look familiar if you're a fan of the later Walking Dead seasons, and you'll notice that Dylan's wife is wearing a blue turtleneck, just like we saw Milchek wearing in the season premiere. This represents that she too is in a chokehold by the overbearing power of Lumen, and it represents how she too is reliant upon the income that Dylan makes working there. But this blue turtleneck also symbolizes her having an authority over any Dylan, and how Dylan is, in a way, her subordinate. He does the work that earns the income that provides for their family, but he does this almost as a service to his higher-ups, those being his Audi self and his Audi's wife. So it's fitting that she is dressed like his higher-ups on the severed floor, Milchek and previously Miss Cobell. And we also got this creepy line where Dylan says that he'll be good and make them proud, re-emphasizing how Dylan serves them. Now, I was personally wondering throughout this scene if this was actually his wife or just a hired actor, another deception, but we later do get confirmation that this really is his wife, and we see her and Dylan at home in the Audi world. Oh, and I also wanted to mention that this photo of their family in an old Western setting, I seriously doubt this was a manipulation of Lumen to keep the Audi world timeless and the innies, ignorant of the outer world. I think in all likelihood that in universe they got this picture taken at an amusement park or something where you can dress up in costumes and take a family photo. It's a pretty common thing. Now, I do have a little theory that I wanted to throw out there. Things do not seem great between Audi Dylan and his wife, and I think that we could see an affair of sorts blossom between Gretchen and Annie Dylan, almost like a conjugal visit type situation. And then that would bring in this whole debate of, is it cheating if she hooks up with Annie Dylan? I mean, it's him, but it's not him, and it would just make for really interesting television, and it would make you question the morality of the situation, which is something that this show just really handles well. And any great show, one of the key themes you'll find is questioning morality of your main characters and what they do and what they don't do. So I'm thinking that that's where this whole visiting your Audi's family thing is headed. Now, jumping back over to the goat room, we hear them question if MDR has pouches like a kangaroo, I guess, a reference to this scene from season 1.
It's literally silly. Like they say, you all have pouches.
Now, up in the Audi world, we see Natalie at Devin and Rickon's house using her seductress-like tactics to make Rickon soften on his skepticism of Lumen, and boy does it work, on him, not on Devin. Not only is Natalie using her beautiful smile and her flirtatious skill set, a skill set that she uses as a press secretary to make people think fondly of Lumen, but she's also using Rickon's desire of being a published author. She's using it against him by offering him a book deal.
Natalie wants to discuss a version of the UUR specifically for innies.
This is yet another piece of Lumen's plan to infiltrate and control Mark's life, but also infiltrating Mark's family, like Miss Cobell did by getting close to Devin and their baby. Now, I would assume that Lumen is also likely genuinely interested in Rickon writing a book that can serve as manipulative propaganda to keep Ennis in line with an Ennie version of his book. And look, Rickon's a nice guy, but he's not a great writer, so it's probably just a manipulation tactic. Now, here on Milchick's computer, we can see 4 listings for personnel. Now, 2983 is Helly, 1004 is Mark, but I'm actually not sure who 2160 and 1002 are. I mean, at first, I thought it'd be Irving and Dylan, but as we learned in season 1, Irving's last 4 digits are 2236, and we never actually saw Dylan's. So I'd like to hear down in the comments below, who do you think these other 2 people are? Could they be monitoring Cobell? Could it be Miss Wong? Let me know what you think. Okay, so now let's get to the big climactic ending of the episode. Audi Mark finally knows that Gemma is alive.
Did he tell?
So I'd like to hear down Dylan, but here on Milchick's computer, we can see 4 listings for personnel. Now, 2983 is Helly, 1004 is Mark, but I'm actually not sure who 2160 and 1002 are. I mean, at first, I thought it'd be Irving and Dylan, but as we learned in season 1, Irving's last 4 digits are 2236, and we never actually saw Dylan's. So I'd like to hear down in the comments below, who do you think these other 2 people are? Could they be monitoring Cobell? Could it be Miss Wong? Let me know what you think. Okay, so now let's get to the big climactic ending of the...
So that's a catch on a catch. I gave you even false information here from one of my subscribers. So yeah, the first one are Mark and Helly. But who are this 3rd one and the 4th one? I'm gonna have to spend time on that while I'm by myself already, not on a live stream.
The episode. Audi Mark finally knows that Gemma is alive.
Did he tell her your wife is alive at Lumen?
Who told you that?
Now, I think it's pretty clear that he's known this ever since he yelled, "She's alive," and was holding the picture of them in that season finale. But he's been in denial, and I get it. I'd probably be in denial too, but I do think that deep down he has known that his Ennie self was talking about his late wife. So when he finds out, this pushes Mark to finally agree to undergo reintegration like Petey did before him. Now, we see Mark sitting here on his bed wearing a red sweater similar to this shot of him in a red shirt in the intro for the show. I also thought it was a nice touch that they're doing the procedure down in Mark's basement, which is where Petey was hiding out in season 1 following his reintegration. And I also like how it parallels the fact that Ennie Mark is being awoken on a below the surface level like the severed floor. Now, the questions that he's being asked morph from Audi questions into Ennie questions, and then they turn into Petey asking Mark S orientation questions, just like we saw Mark ask Helly on her first day.
Hey there, you on the table? I wonder if you'd mind taking a brief survey.
Mark then begins to remember him waking up on that same conference room table, just like Helly did back in season 1. Mark's brainwaves are now aligned, and Mark Scout and Mark S are now one. And guys, I am just loving this season of Severance. It's one of my favorite shows, maybe my favorite show. I'm really enjoying breaking it down and talking about it with you guys every week. I want to hear your thoughts on the episode down in the comments below, or you can at me on Twitter, you can find me on Discord. Yell out your window. I don't know, but I'd love to talk with you guys about the show. If you're new here, please do feel free to subscribe. Smash that bell for alerts.
Yeah, definitely subscribe. Yeah, that guy was awesome. Not only the level of, delivery, entertaining, not afraid to show himself, dropping an F-bomb. I feel like I'm talking to a friend, like a friend talking to me. Also the level of the detail, top tier. Absolutely amazing. That's exactly what I'm saying. Sometimes you get a channel 5 million subscribers and it's some of the most basic shit you have ever seen in your life. And sometimes you get 1.7 and this guy is not looking for, for the average viewer. He is giving, the details for everybody who is a live and breathe Severance. Cool. Very cool video. I think it was not intentional on my part. I have never seen this guy's video. Maybe if I did, maybe years and years ago. But I think it's one of the best, if not the best video we have seen today. Very good video. Absolutely very good video. Let's drop a like here. Okay, well, that's it. Was there some kind of a... No, we finished all of the polls. Well, that's it. My second battery is about to die. I was already preparing to switch to my webcam on my laptop, but it feels like I'm going to be able to tell each and every one of you, thank you so much. The chat was awesome today. And I'm not talking only about the donations, which are obviously very fun and nice and motivating, but just reading the chat, reading your communication with me and with each other was super fun. And probably we're gonna do this again, the next week after episode 4. I think it's gonna be a good idea. It feels like you also enjoyed it. Yeah, and tomorrow I'm gonna drop a video on Recon's book, somebody's writing about this. I'm gonna make it a review, a booktube review. Yeah, hopefully it's gonna be interesting for you. Anyway, for me it's a good night. For most of you it's probably have a good day, but if you are in the same or a similar time zone, also have a good night. And thank you, it was awesome.